people that like are closed-minded that are in this type of business, whether it be sports, news, current events, just fucking talking like this, whatever it is, they're not going to get anywhere because A, they're going to be afraid to put themselves out there because they don't want people to disagree with their opinions, and B, when they actually go to do that and, you know, then they're trying to start conversations with people, they're not going to be able to because they're fucking hacks. They're like, nope, this is what I think, that's it. Can't be like
people
that.
thrive off of negativity. People thrive from saying, this video sucks, send.
Yep.
People love because it's easy. It's easy. It's hard to be nice. It's easy to be a fucking prick.
What's cooking, everybody? I am joined in the bunker today by my very good friend, Mr. Taylor Ringold. Taylor is a podcaster, as well as somebody who works at WFAN up in New York City, which, for those of you who are unaware of WFAN, it is one of the 3 most prestigious sports radio stations in America, no doubt about it. Now, I assumed that Taylor, being a sports guy, was going to come down here. We were going to talk all about sports. And once again, an assumption I made about a conversation with a guest did not go that way, and I am better for it because I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation and the things we did talk about. I'm not going to go through everything we went through, but 2 things specifically I did want to point out. First, we had a good maybe half-hour, 40-minute segment in there about the Clubhouse app. It was in the middle of the podcast where we discussed how the tide has kind of turned there. It was something that everyone was so excited about, and now a lot of people are like, yeah, I was on that, I'm off, whatever, it's stupid. For those of you who are unaware of that app, it was, got to watch my words there. It is an audio-only app that allows you to go into rooms and speak with other people around the world on specific topics that really, it launched in early 2020, but it started to actually get traction in, say, December, January, and February. And so if you've been paying attention to the story at all, the downloads of the app went through the roof, and then they've just kind of fallen off a cliff the last couple months. So Taylor has actually done a terrific job on that app. I really haven't been on it the last 3 months or so, but Taylor's still on there every day, and he runs the MLB on Clubhouse room there for Major League Baseball. And so I wanted to get his thoughts on what he was thinking there, because in my opinion, he's somebody who's used the app very, very well, and some of the negative side effects we've seen from people going on the app obviously have been nowhere near what he's doing there with the MLB room, but I wanted to get his thoughts on the rest of the community and how and if this can kind of turn around. So that was a very good in-depth conversation. And then I also appreciated our conversation on building off of zero, because Taylor has had his podcast, which, if I didn't say this, it's called the End of the Bench Podcast. You can get it on Apple and Spotify, and it is a sports podcast. But he has had that for a few years. He's built it off zero himself. I have a show here that I'm building off zero. Many of you out there are building or have built things off zero or want to build things off zero. And so hearing somebody talk about it in basically like working his way through that process and what he's thinking, good, bad, and indifferent, I know I really appreciated it, and I think you guys will too. So I hope you enjoyed Taylor. Great guy, and I look forward to having him in here again. Now, if you've heard me the last couple weeks speak about our new sponsor, our friends at 8 Sleep, then you know that you should probably get on there and think about maybe improving your sleep by getting one of their products. Now, for those of you who are unaware and haven't heard me speak about 8 Sleep, 8 Sleep is a mattress company, but they are a tech mattress company. Basically, you put tech on anything and immediately, poof, it's better. But seriously, it is. So chances are at night you go to bed, maybe you love your mattress, but you lie back and it's just a piece of foam. And then it's on you to get all the thoughts out of your head and actually fall asleep and then stay asleep and then feel rested in the morning. 8 Sleep has a proprietary app that hooks into their bed. Yeah, some wild shit. That allows you to fall asleep faster. It reduces your sleep interruptions. And it gives you an all-around better night's sleep. I'm not going to dig into exactly how that happens, but it has to do with body temperature and shit like that. But it works. So essentially, where you used to sleep 6 hours and feel like you slept 4 or 6, now you feel like you slept 8. That's the simple value prop, if you will, here. For those of you who are thinking right now, though, that, hey, I love my mattress and I don't think I want to get a new one, and a mattress is a big investment. It is. I got a solution for you, though. 8 Sleep also sells the Pod Pro cover. So they have the Pod Pro mattress, which starts at around $3,000, which is actually very reasonable if you are in the business of buying a mattress right now. But they have the Pod Pro cover that starts at around $1,750. And the cover is the same thing as the mattress, except if you like your current mattress right now, you buy the cover and you just put it on top of your current mattress and have the app wired into it and get all the same benefits. That's what I do personally, by the way. So if you would like to try this out, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed and it'll change your life, hit the link in my description and use the code TRENDIFIER at checkout for either the mattress, the Pod Pro mattress, the full thing, or the Pod Pro cover, and you will get $100 off. Amazing. Anyway, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you're on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, and leave a like and comment on the video if you would, please. To all of you who have been leaving a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, thank you. I say it every week. They are amazing. They are a huge help for listeners, new listeners, coming into the page and deciding whether or not they're going to give the show a try. And I know a lot of you do listen on Spotify rather than Apple, but if you own an iPhone and you have that podcast app and you can take a second to go in there and leave a 5-star comment and review, it is a huge, huge help. So I would really, really appreciate that. That said, you know what it is. I'm Julian Dorey, and this is TRENDIFIER. Let's go! This is one of the great questions in our culture. Where's the nuance? You're giving opinions and calling them facts. You feel me? Everyone understands this, but few seem to do it. If you don't like the status quo, start asking questions. Taylor Ringold. What's up, my dude?
What's up, dude?
The last time I saw you, we were leaving New York City after the Next Gen Summit.
Correct.
And I later got robbed.
Yeah, I remember I was on the train home with my buddy Liam, who was with me. And we were just talking, I guess, and I think I saw on your Instagram story, I want to say.
Yeah.
And your boys that were there, too. And
Yeah.
I was just like, holy shit.
Dude, it happened like right away. I had Mitch hanging out last night. We were he was over here. He said hello, by the way.
Nice.
And I think we had left there at like 6. We were back in Jersey City at our place by like 6:25. Went and grabbed a quick bite and then gone. Just everything stolen from the car.
Was the car? The car was unlocked, right?
Unfortunately, yes, it was. Yeah, it was. One day I'm gonna have Mitch in here, and we're gonna do an episode where we just recount that story, and not necessarily like the robbery itself,
right.
Everything that happened after, because that was a wild fucking week. That was like,
well, I mean, what was it, like $5-6 grand worth of material?
oh, it was more than that.
Or like, you had laptops, you had hard drives, you had cameras, you had microphones, you had recorders, you had everything,
and all that cost some money. Obviously, I think it was probably like 10-11 grand or something, which is not nothing, but the most disappointing part of it was all of Mitch's hard drives were in there because he had packed his hard drives.
Oh, yo, I'm stressed. I'm ready to sweat.
I know.
I'm freaking out.
I know. It was bad. Dude, I've never felt so bad for someone who didn't die or like have a family member or somebody die as
right.
After that happened, because his entire life was on those hard drives and they were all taken.
It's called the cloud.
You know what, though? We did have assets on the cloud. So there were some things, like we had done the Maxwells earlier that year.
Okay.
So we had that all on the cloud, thank God. And there were other things that we did as well. But there was like a ton of old files that he had taken off the cloud that's for like safekeeping and reuse in the future. A bunch of big, because when you're putting, you know how it is, when you're putting big content files on the cloud, it takes a long time.
Right. And so, it seems like every 6 months I'm re-upping and buying a larger amount of gigabytes or terabytes for the cloud, because I do all these interviews, and what I do is now every like 5 or 6 interviews I take it off my computer, put it on a hard drive, and it's on the cloud.
Yeah.
So I have storage on my computer.
That's a lot. Yeah, you're not kidding. But that's the point. So he had it on multiple different things, and it just so happened that he was going to be going down to South Jersey for the week because he was always remote in his job, so he could work from there. And so he packed up the car before we went and grabbed the bite because he was just going to leave straight from there. And so everything happened to be in there. And it was like, again, we'll tell the aftermath of that one time because it was
that
wild,
was rough. I mean, when
that
I
was
saw it,
something.
because we were there 2 days together.
Yeah.
And that's where I met you. You were right next to me.
Yep.
And we were both on our grind. And it seemed like all the action was next to us, just us two.
Completely. Well, yeah, we also were set up, and
Prime spot.
people are like, what the fuck are we talking about? There was this conference, the Next Gen Summit, which like a lot of entrepreneurs and high-end businessmen and some business celebrities, I guess you could say, like Jesse Itzler was there, Reid Hoffman, some of those guys.
Brendan Copeland, who was at the time was a linebacker for the Jets, who's a big entrepreneur.
Kelechi Osemele was there as well. Yeah. So like a whole bunch of different people, and it was, it's a 2-day summit run by these two guys who run like a company that runs these things in different cities, and it's the big one that's in New York City in June 2019. So you, if I remember correctly, we were brought in to run like sit down media and just like do longer form, not long form, but like, 20, 30-minute interviews with all the different people there.
Mine was actually shorter.
Yours was different because you were like the red carpet guy.
Right. I guess that's how they portrayed it, as when these speakers were done doing their keynotes, whatever, their TED Talks, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. When they were done, they would come over, they would get escorted over by the workers or whatever that were volunteered for the day, and they would bring them over to me for 5 to 8 minutes. I asked them questions, and it was cool.
It's a different vibe, though. Like when you're like standing up and you're like, yo, I got a few minutes and there's like crowds around and shit.
And I'm used to it. I'm used to short amount of time. I'm used to, it's high leverage. You need to get the questions in, get the answers going, because they've been talking for 20 minutes already and they want to go home.
Yeah. It's like they halfway.
It's like they don't want to do it, but they know they have to. And I would, you have to deal with, people that are just not interested. And you're like, look, my thing was when I did those interviews, first of all, I don't know shit about tech.
You're a sports guy.
I'm a sports guy. I don't know shit about tech. The amount of research I had to do like 3 days before, because I would ask them, hey, can you give me the list of people so I can research? Yeah. And it was like 6 days before.
There was some, like we said, there was a lot of serious people there.
I mean, Jesse Itzler ain't no joke, man. No. He's a minority owner of the Hawks, big guy. Entrepreneur, very nice guy. And I was like talking to my buddy. I'm like, I don't know any of these people besides who Brendan Copeland is. I didn't even talk to the other guy. I didn't even talk to him.
Well, he wasn't even. Kelechi was just rolling around, man, because he had just been signed by the Jets, which then turned into a whole thing. But he was literally just like rolling through, like, he'd been connecting with Gary Vee, I think, and doing some stuff with him because Gary Vee's like a big fan. And then he heard about this and he's like, oh, fuck it. I'm not doing anything on Saturday. Yeah. Right. So like whereas Copeland, I think, was like, he was there all day. Speaker, and he was like,
he was the only guy I watched his speech, and he was there. He did a 25-minute thing, and he's big on real estate. And
dude, he's smart as shit, that guy.
I mean, I think he went to, it was either Harvard or Princeton, I think.
He went to Penn. No. He taught at Penn.
Right, he was a professor.
Like, he's still in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
He's a professor at Penn.
Yeah.
Guy's a savage.
Great, and it was cool because I try my best to have some sort of like, feed in sports topic in the question. Like,
sure, yeah.
So there's some relatability, Brendan Steiner, who owns Steiner Sports, was there.
He was?
He was there.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he was there. He might have been like early day one, maybe.
I wish I had known that. That's Chaz's guy. He's done a lot of work with him in the past.
Yeah, he was very nice. So there was some sort of sports guys there, and I got to talk. But there was people look. I don't know who the fuck Jeff Hoffman was, and now I do.
I think it's Reid Hoffman.
No, it was Jeff.
Was it Jeff or Reid?
It was Jeff Hoffman. Yeah.
No, Reid is the LinkedIn guy. That's why. Jeff is what was the
Priceline?
That's it. Yeah.
And then Alex Lieberman, who does
Morning Brew.
Like
no longer, but yeah.
I looked it up and I was like, oh, these people are fucking legit,
Yeah.
And then and it was after 2 long days, you had a rough one, and I fast forward my situation about a month down the line throughout the summer, and I'll keep it as frank as possible.
Okay. You have the floor.
the people at Next Gen hired this freelance videographer and an audio person. They were probably college students, and they had all the equipment that you needed.
I didn't even know they did that though, because like this was the one base they didn't have covered. You know what I mean? Like they asked you and us to come in separate.
They should have had it covered.
Yeah.
Like this is very important. You know how video content's huge. Yeah. Everyone can go to this a huge event. It's just great, but if you can't replay it on every social media or every platform afterwards. I mean, one of the audio person was doing audio, and she was also doing audio. Some other person that was volunteer did a Facebook Live thing every time I was interviewing somebody, but no one could hear them because it was so loud.
So many people.
Right. Yeah. So to bring it back together here, I was told when I got hired, I didn't get paid a dime, and I was fine with that because I knew in exchange I was going to get every interview I was doing. I did 14, maybe 12 interviews.
You did at least that.
Yeah, at least a dozen.
Because you pretty much talked
to everybody.
Almost with everyone we talked to, and I think each of us had an overlap of maybe 3 or 4 people who we did not both talk to.
Yeah.
Like you talked to 3 people but it was pretty much like we would get them to you, and then they come straight and sit down with us, and like a turnstile.
And what happened was I was supposed to get the interviews, as a get paid, I guess. That was my
Yeah.
And I was so hyped because I need more content just to have in my possession, and I didn't get any. 0. Because the videographer did not, I guess the people that hired this kid didn't do their homework. And he had, I remember emailing back and forth between the guys that have the event and then the videographer about, hey, this was the deal. I want it. I deserve it. And I didn't get paid for it. So in exchange, I'm gonna get the footage. And the kid had this giant contract about I want 20% of
the audio guy,
the video guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I want 20% of whatever video you post, and it goes out. I want 20% of what you make off of those videos. I want credit, this, that, and the other. And it was a long contract, which was never given to me before. So it was given, of course, after the fact. And then I was extremely furious, but I kept my cool for about a month with respectful emails back and forth. And
how can they give you a contract after the event? I want to hear about this because this is interesting to me.
Well, the people at Next Gen were blindsided as well, but they didn't handle it right. As somebody who has power and who ran this gigantic event, I would think they would have a little more power and a little more authority than what they've shown. And I was very disappointed by that because they seemed very nice. They were very nice.
They were, yeah.
Very nice guys. And I was very disappointed because they didn't handle it right.
I think here's what I think, and you're totally within the right on this. And I remember talking about this with you, and obviously that part didn't work out. I know you ended up getting at least a couple of them.
Well, because I had my buddy Liam.
Oh yeah.
I said, look, I need some help. I can't do this on my own. So you want to come bring my camera on the side, any behind the scenes stuff.
Got it.
And I would say 90% of the videos, the audio was shit. It just didn't work out, but I got to fix a couple of them. But I do have video with Jesse Itzler, but it
something,
was something, but it wasn't what the
you had a whole narrative there.
My whole thing going in was I'm gonna get 12 kick-ass interviews, 5 to 8 minutes, great for social, and these are important people that people do know.
And you're 23 years old doing this too. I mean, this is exactly a sweet spot you want to do.
I missed my brother's graduation party.
I remember that. You're it's my brother's graduation party right now.
Yeah, right now they're having hot dogs right now. It's
damn.
You got to sacrifice some things.
Yeah,
and that's the whole part.
What's your brother's name?
Jake.
Fuck you, Jake. Yeah. Sorry, pal.
No, that's like that. But that's the sacrifice you have to make sometimes.
Yeah,
I've missed so much shit, man.
Yeah, I think in fairness to them, I think Dylan and Justin at the time were 23 or 22. They were young, right? And they have built this whole community, and they have all these crazy people who go to these different events for them. I mean, you get Jesse to come to an event and stuff, and I hear it's like a network thing. So my understanding, I
give him a lot of credit though.
I don't know this for sure, but my understanding is this isn't a paid conference. Jesse Itzler, for example, he he commands a lot of money every time he speaks. Even Hoffman, some of these guys, they're not just pulling up on a Saturday or Sunday to do something, but these guys, Justin and Dylan, obviously have built out this whole network. And then I guess the point is they're like an access point because they get all kinds of startups around the country, like some that probably aren't going to make it, but a lot that are like hopeful and actually going to do something. And so their group of speakers, quote unquote mentors and stuff, get access and first look at some of the most cutting edge stage.
It's incredible.
Stuff to come in.
It was very impressive this whole venue was gorgeous too.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. It's right behind you, right there on the background.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. I was a little nervous, to be honest with you, because it was out of my comfort zone. Yeah. But sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone to experience things.
100%, man.
The risk taking is just not in media, but it's in every field. If you want to succeed, you have to take some risks, because if you don't, then what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, and when you're in media too, because, and obviously you've been at WFAN for a while on the programming side, and you're like coming up and you've had your own podcast for a while, like those are the types of things you have to do. You have to do your own show. You have to go out and you have to take weird, uncomfortable things that like might not even be your subject matter just to prove like, I can make a narrative here. Because in the modern day, and I'd love to get a lot of your thoughts on this because you're like on the inside, on the industry too. Like there's so much traditional media just going away, and the people who are winning attention are people who are winning online and people who are winning building themselves up by just kind of building a long-term resume. That's really, to me, when I see people break through, that's what I see every time. It's like, they've been doing this a while,
Yeah, it's what you're seeing now is the big time media companies are trying to follow what these more popular, like a Barstool or Barstool is the prime example of what people want to watch and people want to listen to, because it's. Are
you a big fan of that?
I'm a huge fan of this.
They're great.
Yeah, I've made some cool relationships with some of the guys that have worked there, but they're relatable, and relatability is the biggest thing right now. I can't relate to I can't relate to Scott Van Pelt. Scott Van Pelt is the tip-top, best sports host in the world. I can't relate to him. He's one of my.
Why is that? He's still on ESPN. He's an all-timer. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think just the way that some of the people at Barstool, they're just their thing was like the common man, right? Mm-hmm. They're just a bunch of people talking sports, shit talking. You're not finding that at these big time media companies, at Fox Sports, or they're trying, like Undisputed. They're trying to banter. First Take. That's
they're wearing
been for
a suit,
years,
man.
And that's also another thing. Look, I don't know how long they're going to wait until they kind of conform to the other side, where the new stream, the new media nowadays, where it's laid back, it's you can voice your own opinion, and if you're wrong, it's okay. Mm-hmm. And I think the mainstream media, the ESPNs of the world, the Fox Sports, I'm forgetting other channels here, but I don't know if they'll ever get there. And it's when companies like Barstool hit, they go somewhere else, like they bring a show to a network and that show kills, then they might see a change. Like they've
already been shut down doing that though. They tried to do that.
They tried.
ESPN, and they took one quote out of context, like, "Oh yeah, now we can't do this show." Like something Dave Portnoy had said in the past. You can't.
Right. So it's a. This has been going on for a long time, but it's still very new.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of time, I think, but it's just going to take a long time for these. It's about who's running the network, right? Who's gonna have the balls to go to the other side.
It's really hard on the traditional side because they're working against groupthink, and they're working against, and when we're talking about public companies too, like ESPN owned by Disney, they're working against like public shareholders in a certain way of doing business.
It's about ad deals and products. Yeah. You think, fucking Coca-Cola wants to hear someone talking about,
No.
Dick and balls? No.
But that's the other thing, man. Corporate culture is so, and it's not even like, I want to be careful how I say this, but for years, I would say almost like too early, but I got to give them credit. They were kind of onto something. You saw like a lot of, in the 2000s, you'd see like some pretty hardcore conservatives talking about how they weren't using the word woke because it wasn't around, but like how just fucking like soft, some of these networks were, even in things like sports. And I don't think they were right back then, but maybe they saw like a couple signs, and so I have to give them credit that maybe they saw something I didn't. But in the last several years, the focus at places like ESPN has gone to that corporate culture, which is driven down from them from the top, right? Because corporate culture is all about like, yo, how can we be like the most understanding and fucking pander and say whatever we got to say so that we don't get in the news and don't get crushed by somebody in the media trying to make a story.
Right.
And so I empathize with like these ESPNs of the world when it's like,
I do too.
What are they supposed to do?
It's and I feel like we do see how ESPN and Fox Sports and other networks are trying. Yeah. They're trying their hardest to do it, but there's a lot of things in the way. Money. There's a lot of contracts and deals. A lot of things are in the way, and that's it's all. I think it's because it's once that changes, once the products or once the companies that are working with these networks can be a little looser, then I think things will change. Yeah. I feel like ESPN wants to change, and Fox wants to change, and other networks want to have more. You do see it. There's like I forget what the show is called. I don't think it's even on anymore, but it was a show that was at like 2 a.m. on ESPN, and they were wearing jeans. They had Yeezys on. They had bomber jackets, and they were shooting the shit. But it was at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday.
Yeah, and that's the issue. And there's such a, I forget how you said it really well when you were talking about Barstool, which is, it's the best example. I mean, and I, way back in the day when I was first doing the podcast and experimenting around, I did an episode talking about that and why people really fucked with it and focused on Dave Portnoy more than anything, because I've respected that from afar for so long. And like with Barstool, the way you were saying, it's just kind of like they're shooting the shit and there's no production to it. Like when they're watching the games and gambling on it, it's literally just like a one-shot screen, maybe with one side camera or whatever, and it's a bunch of dudes on a couch eating wings and screaming "fuck you" when something doesn't go their way. There's no...
It's authentic.
Exactly.
It's authentic.
And that's such an overused word, but
that's it's not only in sports media, it's in all podcasting and all the new media going on. Yep. Everyone wants to see authentic people. Having a scripted show... Like, I watched a scripted podcast one time. Holy shit, man. It was terrible. Because, look, you could have a scripted opening monologue, right? It's fine. But the rest of the show should be just fluid. Like, this is fluid.
Yeah.
Rogan's fluid. Pardon My Take is fluid conversation.
And they've always been that way, too.
Right. They might, like, Pardon My Take might have bullet points of, like, all right, we're going to start with this one, then this one, then this one. But we're not going to, like, I'll put off the side. But we're not going to, like, have it time coded. This is 15 minutes of conversation. I've always said in my interviews, I don't want a time limit on it.
Yeah.
Because why am I going to limit an amazing conversation that one topic I think could be 15 minutes, can go on for 45.
And you know what? I've seen that with your content too, because like you had the one a couple weeks ago. I always forget the guy's name. It was the NFL Network guy,
Scott Hansen.
Yeah, where he was talking. You guys ended up on a sidebar talking about the April Fool's joke they played, where he was right there on stage. Like,
that was Chris Rose. I've had a couple guys.
You've had a couple of those guys. But either way, like he was on stage with, it was Strahan, who's the actor, Tom Arnold, right?
Yep.
And then one or two other people.
Rob Dibble and somebody else.
Yeah, and it's just like, and this is a guy who you were talking to, who I'm used to being like, welcome back to Good Morning Football, or like whatever. And of course, he's great at what he does, but he's a part of that old guard and whatever. And then you see him get in to talk with you, and it's just like, oh, yeah, I'm shooting the shit with Taylor. And it's like, it's almost like, like obviously we have lights and cameras in here, right? Mm-hmm. We have mics just like they do, but there's not fucking 50 producers with headsets on telling you, screaming in your ear, going, no, don't go there.
You don't
because
have an IFB in, right? Yeah.
It's like, it's so fluid. And I guess the other question for you that's right on this topic that's kind of important is, how fluid is it at WFAN? Because for people that don't know, WFAN, where you work, is I mean, it's the preeminent sports station in New York. It's historical.
In the country.
Yeah. I mean, I would say WFAN and WIP in Philly as far as sports stations go.
WEI, too, is up there in Boston.
In Boston.
Yeah.
Those three cities are just, sports havens. That's
fucking
why.
Right there.
But, at least at WIP here, I used to go in the studio because I knew some of the guys there when I was like 17, 18. They were really natural. Like, it wasn't far off what we see now. And, like, do you find it pretty similar at WFAN in your experience?
Yeah, being around talent is what they call in the business, the host.
Yeah.
If it's on TV or radio, it's called talent. These guys are fucking naturals.
Yeah.
Naturals. Craig Carton, as much as you like him or you don't, a natural.
Yeah.
Evan Roberts, a natural. Mike Francesa was a natural.
Tella.
Yeah.
Tella, I'm not a natural.
I got to see Francis twice before he retired. I never got to talk to him or shake his hand. I just saw him from afar. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
The legend, right? But
he would talk for like 5 straight hours. It's just him. It's hard to do.
Not many, I talked one time. We'll get into the story later, but talking for an hour straight by myself is tough. But yeah, no, it's like going through a show, it takes a lot of work. Everyone's got to be working together. The talent is doing their job, talking to baseball, or talking sports, and then answering calls. People behind the glass, the board op, producer, they all have to work together. If one person's off, the show's fucked.
But so I guess the way to phrase the question is like, how much of it is like, yo, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about, and let's keep the calls there too, versus it's like, okay, let's kind of roll with the punches. We know these are the main stories going on, so that's probably what they're going to talk about, and we're going to go with it. That was WIP.
It's honestly, it's every radio station, right? You want to have a fluid conversation, and you want to have the callers be on the same page as you. And if you're really good at it, you can time it out. It's like there could be, your producer's talking in your head. It's like, all right, let's go on to the next topic in 10 minutes or whatever. But if you're like a veteran doing it, you kind of have like a mental clock in your head.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for 25 minutes. Let's get on to something else. We go to break, come back. We have a new story coming out, whatever, breaking news, whatever it is. So it's about, I think there's a mixture of both structure and being naturally fluid.
Yeah.
Right. And if because you can see, I've watched simulcast radio or whatever.
That's where it's on TV as well.
Yeah. Where in like the final hour or two, it gets kind of slow and they just start rambling about shit, just nonsense, talking about favorite wings, or they're talking about anything. And it doesn't have to relate to sports at all, as long as it's entertaining.
Well, I think the guys, when it's a co-host, when it's a couple of them, it's definitely easier. The guys who have to host those like 4-hour shows, and they got to work it up against commercial breaks because they're still old school like that in radio. It has to be. And, that's where I feel like, once you get like 2 hours in, it's like, all right, what do we talk about in each segment? Like, how's this? You know what I mean? Like that's where when you're talking about rambling, it's pretty hard not to.
Oh yeah. You just go off. And then, you know what? Francesa, yes, give the guy credit for talking 5-6 hours straight. Yeah. But when you have callers, it helps.
That's true.
It fucking helps because it's like you're having a revolving, a co-host for a minute.
He would always do like that opening monologue for like 15, 20 minutes. Because when I lived up there, I would listen to him once in a while. Come on and be like, the story about Eli. Listen. The Giants, they messed this entire thing up. They messed this, and you'd almost like get your blood going while he's talking, because he was such an artist with how he would like paint the picture, and yet he's a New York guy. I mean, you listen to the accent and everything. It's like, you talk about authenticity. It's 100% there, and it's not like he can say fuck or whatever he wants to say. He's got to clean it up a little bit, but it doesn't. You almost don't notice that, even in today's times, where it's kind of easy to notice if someone can't do that.
It's like a clean comic. It's a true talent to be a clean, like a Brian Regan, who is like a great comic, straight clean. Like Jim Gaffigan is clean.
It's hard.
It's more impressive if you can not curse one time for an hour straight.
Yeah.
Try doing that. Everyone listening, try not cursing for an hour.
I couldn't
never
try.
Yeah. So it's a thing I try working I try doing myself when I do my interviews, because when I tell my guests before we start, I give them a little spiel like, all right, look, I'll tell you what I do, what I've done, whatever, and whatever the topics might be. And I said, look, this is laid back. This isn't your typical journalistic one-on-one interview where I'm asking you these, just basic Q&A. I want it to be a normal conversation. Right. And I tell them that, and I've had guys or I've had people on, they're like, okay, thank God. Because like this is the 40th interview I've done today, and I kind of want to answer the same fucking question.
Yeah. That whole, and you were talking about like scripted podcasts. There are a lot of podcasts that we don't even realize are scripted, where like, they got on a screen like this, for example, in their house or whatever, they got the 13 questions they're going to ask. And there's like no flow to it. There's no conversation. And
no.
I'm definitely, because I do it too, like you're definitely going to be even more heated about it when you do it. I mean, you get that. But, I'm a little more biased against it than probably the average person. But frankly, people can smell that bullshit. They can smell when it's like, oh, there's this wall there. They're not really talking.
I'm like 50-50. I do have a few questions. Things that I that need to be in front of me so I don't forget them. Not
like bullets, yes.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the people that are that like have it numbered like 1 to 20, and that's the order they go in. So when someone finishes an answer, they go to the next thing.
Yeah, I do not do that.
There's a lot of people that do that, dude.
And sometimes that works for them, and for personally, maybe for you and me, it doesn't. When I tell people, like they ask me like, oh, so is it hard interviewing somebody of a, if it's a famous person or something? I said, yes and no. It does depends on the personality of who you're talking to. But just remember, like, you and I have been sitting here for 4 hours, and we've had a nice conversation. You don't think about it when you're talking to somebody. You don't think that you're asking a question. You're not. It just comes fluid, right? It just, you're not thinking about it, and that's what I try doing, and that's what you try doing in your interviews. You just want to make it a normal conversation. And the best person to watch is Rogan. Rogan,
he's the best ever.
He's the podfather. He is a great conversationalist. It's incredible how great he is at it. I watched many YouTube videos about like the science of how he talks to people. And people might be like, all right, it's kind of like crazy, Taylor. No, but
no, it's not.
It is a science of what he does and how he gets interviews started by compliments and gets them engaged early on. Because once you grab someone early on, you're set.
Yeah.
You're set.
Yeah.
And then I've done that. I've taken that same approach for almost all my interviews I've done. And look, I'm still learning. I'm 26. I'm still super young. I got a long list.
It's gotten a lot better from when I first listened to your podcast a couple of years ago when I met you. Like, it is, if people went back, you're on what, episode 140 something now?
Like 135 or something, somewhere in there, yeah.
So if people went back to like number 50, they would not enjoy it nearly as much.
I agree.
You weren't as good. And now it's much more flow to it.
Right, and that episode 50 was better than what it was.
Oh, hell yeah.
2 years ago when I was interviewing ball players and stuff like that. And it's all about, like, that's one thing I learned too, where I've taken that same approach from, I interned for the Twins in 2018. It was the best job I ever had. It was the fucking
Minnesota
best.
Twins.
Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah, I got to clarify that. Sorry. Minnesota Twins, right. And I got to interview baseball players every day, and it was like a dream. And
stand-up kind of interview, locker room stuff?
Clubhouse, on the field, in the dugout, things I've dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
And one of the people that I worked with every day was like, Taylor, look, there's two things you need to take from this internship. Is one, you need to look around you, look what you're doing, and don't take it for granted. Like you're doing something that everybody wants to do in our industry, and you have this for 6 months. You can get it back once it's done. You just got to keep working hard. Another thing is like, just be yourself, and do not be the typical, journalistic. That's someone I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be the norm. I wanted to just be myself, cool, calm, and collective. I come up to a guy and I just dap him up, say, "Hey, nice game last night," and then they'll say, "Hey, do you need something from me?" I'm like, "No, I don't." So, because when I just have a normal conversation with a player, when I do need them, they'll come back to me and say, "Hey, I got you."
It's building relationships.
It's building relationships. And I got in trouble for being too friendly, believe it or not.
What do you mean? How do you get in trouble for that?
Somebody said
You
to
giving
me,
him a rub and tug?
yeah. No. I got.
Hey, I'm
really
I'm not judging you. I'm
not
just saying.
really in trouble. They just said like, "Hey, you can't be doing this." They said I was being too friendly to the players. Like I wanted to be friends with them.
Who said that?
People of power
At the Twins.
Yeah.
Okay.
And other people around me, reporters and so on.
Got
Like,
it.
you can't be doing this. Be more professional. And as the young guy, I was 22, 23. I just said, okay. And I was furious. I was so mad because like that's not what I'm doing. I'm not like, hey, let's go to the club after the game. I'm not fucking doing that. What I'm doing is I want to build relationships so when I do see them in 2 years, they'll fucking remember my face and my name. And guess what? A year later, I got to see the Twins again. I saw Trevor May. I saw Mitch Garver and Trevor Heldenberger, who was on the Twins at the time. They remember me. They came up to me. Jose Barrios, who's the young ace of the team, came up to me. And he's like, hey, dude, how are you? And I said, I'm great. And then I would let him go. Because it's all about building relationships. And that's why I've gotten cool guests with even building relationships or just like talking to one person one time. And it's just like, what I tell kids is like young guys or young girls in the industry, just like be yourself. Do not fucking fall into the trap of the old school way of reporting. Just be normal.
I think that it's a generational thing more than anything because our generations, everyone's got their positives and their flaws. Every generation does. I think one of our positives is that for those of us that can be social, right? Because one of the downsides is some people are like, oh, some of them aren't social because they're glued to their phones and shit. But those of us that actually are good with other people, we really value the relationship. We value shooting the shit with somebody. We value actually like kind of knowing who they are. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, and you don't have to put any names on it or anything like that. I don't want to put you in a corner at all. Sure. But when you mention like people around me, like other reporters and stuff, that didn't surprise me at all that would happen because look, it's like any other industry, but it's a little special in that kind of industry. It's cutthroat as fuck. You know, it's all about who gets the interview, who gets that question, who gets that thing done, who can take credit for it. Now it's like it's been this way for over a decade. Now it's a tweet game. Who tweets it first? Who has the first thing out? And
that's the hardest shit, man.
All these people, they see a kid coming in and they know you're like an intern. You're fucking 21. And they're like, oh, this kid's beating us at our own game.
Dude, I'm telling you, when I walked in, the in-studio host who's with the Twins, Minnesota Twins radio, Chris Atterbury, who's a great guy. I look up to him still. He was a guy I didn't know even coming in. I learned a ton from him. Him and the producers kind of just threw us interns. There was another guy named Charlie who was my other intern with me. Just threw us into the fire, basically like learning how to do your reporting in a clubhouse, post-game, pre-game, and just like have at it and go. Not really learning much, just kind of like on the fly, which I think is the right way to do it. Fuck up in real time, so then the next time you're not going to do it. Yep. I remember one time, the very first time I walked in the clubhouse, I had the microphone with the badge on it. I felt like a fucking beast. I was so hyped.
Suited up.
Opening day, so I wore a suit. I had my Calvin Klein suit I bought after graduation, my own money. I look fly as shit.
Calvin Klein's no joke, man.
Yeah,
Calvin Klein's got some nice suits.
He's got some nice suits, and I was so proud of myself for being where I was at, and came in and all these, and I became friends with a few of reporters, later down the line of the season. Mm-hmm. But you do look. I looked in. I'm like, I'm the youngest person here by 20 years.
Yep.
And I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I think I know what I'm doing, but I don't. And all these people, reporters, don't have time for me.
They all don't. And here's the other thing. This is just a reality. And maybe not as much for some of the TV media people or some of the people who were there from like online media, but especially like the reporters, like the writers and stuff. Some of these guys are talented as hell, but they're in the wrong industry and they make no fucking money, and they're watching their friends one by one get fired every day because half of it's going away. And so they see this kid walk in and they're like, fuck him. It's territorial.
Because I'm a young kid.
Yeah.
And I was working for the Twins radio station, which was popular. It's a popular place to listen to the game. And it was extremely intimidating because you're around guys you've been watching on television for years.
Was Maurer still on the Twins?
That was his last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, and like, Joe Mauer, MVP, Gold Glove winner, batting champion, legend, and he was walking by me, and it's just like some of the times it was like, where the fuck am I right now? And early on, it was tough. Like I remember, the thing is, you can't interview the starting pitcher the day they start. It's a thing. Pre-game, you never do it.
Right.
And I saw
that's an old ritual.
It's you can't fucking do that. And I saw someone do that. That was like a veteran reporter, and he did it. And I saw it happen. I was like, write that down. Don't do that. Got it. And then post game, I did this. Luckily, only a couple people saw it, but I was extremely embarrassed. A pitcher who he was only there for half the year, got rocked. 5 innings, 4 innings, walked 5 earned. It was not a good start for him. And the thing is, when the game's over, the starting pitcher talks, but the whole media scrum all goes at once to talk to the starting pitcher.
How crazy is that? That's like the thing. The scrum is still the thing.
It will always be the thing. And how it goes is, so it's at the time, Fox Sports Midwest was the TV station that was broadcasting the games live on television. So the field reporter asked 3 questions first, and then once she or he is done talking, then the rest of us can talk. Me, on the other hand, this is like week 1 of the season. I go up to the starting pitcher who just got rocked. All the other reporters are off to this side waiting to go into the manager's office. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get my questions in early, whatever. The guy says, wait until everyone else is here. Fuck off. And I said, okay. And some reporters heard that. Nobody said anything. Players heard that. Nobody said anything. And I have an earpiece in my ear connected to like a feed. Producer,
they all
boss, laughing
in
my ear. And I was like, can anybody warn me next time? And they're like, that's how you gotta learn. And I never did it again, and I'll never do it again. Because you don't fuck up twice on that. On something like that.
And the guy, there's 2 things that
guy's a prick, by the way.
Well, maybe, and individuals absolutely can be. I'm sure there's plenty of them. But
he did it numerous times.
The guys who aren't pricks, like they know, like, oh, okay, he didn't know it. Not, you know what I mean? Like, if you did it 3 times, like you said, then they might be like, dude, get a fucking clue, right?
Right.
But there's also, you're going in there and you're trying to like feel your own way out, and at the end of the day, like, they're gonna recognize that. So
and there is a lot of players that
the ones that do.
And there's a lot of players that did recognize it from both sides, the twin side or the opposing clubhouse, which I interviewed players all over too, and some just don't give a shit. And it took me a month or so to change like the persona of like this assistant/intern, whatever look. And I was extremely confident going into every single clubhouse, knowing that I got to get my work done, got to get the quotes in and out there quick.
It's a confidence thing, though. Too.
It's a confidence thing. You got to own it.
You got to
fucking own it.
You got to walk up into those because like you were born to be there.
Because people can sniff it on you.
Yep.
That you're the young guy.
Yep.
You can look it, but if you can kick ass and kind of show everybody else like, hey, I can get my shit done and get it, and I can answer. I can get in the first media scrum of 30 or 20 reporters. I ask the first question and I ask a good one. You gain respect quick.
And the scrum's a little different when it's like everyone else is there, because like you're gonna get one in, right? And he's not paying attention to you only when you ask the question. That's when he's paying attention, then he's on to the next person.
Yeah.
So that one's like, I want to say a little easier once you figure out how you actually get your question in and figure out, when to ask the right one. But when you're going and doing a stand-up interview with someone, 5-6 minutes, whatever it is, getting into a flow, and this is the same thing you were doing at Next Gen, getting into a flow with those people, I can't imagine that. Because, you talked about it here and doing this, or like on Joe Rogan, what he does. The opportunity to shut the door, turn on the lights, put on the headphones, and the world is absolutely shut out and dark behind you. Time doesn't exist, and it's just 2 guys right in each other's earphones talking to each other.
Yeah.
You can get this type of, I wish everyone had a chance to do this. You can get this type of flow and bond that kind of happens. Like, we're already in it right now, where it's like, oh, yeah, we're good. Like, we'll just kind of roll with it.
Right.
But when you walk up to these guys, first of all, we're standing. Secondly, it's in the locker room. Thirdly, we got to do this every fucking day. Fourthly, this is the guy's career. This is not, imagine like, you having to be interviewed every time you fucking produce something. Like, Taylor, how'd that go out there?
Right.
You're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I'm just trying to pay the goddamn bills here, right?
Right.
So getting into a flow with someone like that, it seems kind of impossible to me. But did you ever find a way to actually do that?
Yeah, it took a little while because the players see all of us every day. So you see the recurring faces. And my plan was hopefully that I wasn't put on like as a target, like, all right, this kid's annoying. I don't want to talk to him. So that's where I thought of. I said, look, you just go up to a guy and say, what's up? You hit knuckles, say, what's up? How was your weekend? Well, not how was your weekend, but like, nice game, whatever. Or you kind of pay attention to their social media. If they're playing Call of Duty the night before, they posted it. So, nice kill streak or something, whatever. You just anything.
You're in there taking notes on the kills. Oh, he just killed 2 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, he's up to a 1.5.
Dude, I'm serious. It's any little thing that could sway them the other way. There'll be times where I'll be done with my work. I'll be done. And what I love to do, instead of going back to the studio, I will go back to the studio, get my shit done, and then leave and go sit in the dugout, watch BP. And I'd be sitting in the dugout, and it was the coolest shit ever because guys would just sit next to me or tie their shoes or whatever, and they just talk whatever. And as soon as I did it one time, I'm like, I got to keep doing this because I know I'm building relationships very slowly.
Yes.
But when it came down to it, like when the last game of the season was over, or it was last game of the season, you go in the morning, you get like some morning quotes or whatever, and a lot of the guys are just packing up, and a couple of guys I said like, hey, I appreciate all the help. This is my first real experience, and I really appreciate you being kind to me. And he's like, no, you were kind to all of us. A lot of us like you. Don't change who you are. And there was a guy who was like, who's now a starter now, full-time starter for the team. And he's like, dude, you did a great job. A lot of these reporters are fucking annoying.
Yep.
And a lot of them are good, but we like you because you're chill.
And you still, that's the thing though too. Like, and as you come into the industry and stuff, like there is a job to do. Even when you're friends with these guys, when someone's not playing well or not getting the job done, like you're required, unless you're fucking terrible, you got to report on it.
I had one guy. It was like the Reds were in town, and this kid Tyler Malley, who's I think a starter still for the Reds, Cincinnati Reds. He shoved against the Twins, and he was a rookie in 2018.
He what?
He shoved. He like fucking mowed him down.
Oh, played well. Yeah.
I'm doing baseball terms. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The shove was interesting.
Yeah,
I might use that. That's pretty good.
He fucked them up. Fuck the Twins up. I think 8 strikeouts, whatever. And I remember I'm in the studio and I'm talking to my producers and I'm like, all right, what am I going to ask? And then one of them was like, hey, just ask him like they're at bat. And I'm like, well, this guy struck out on 4 pitches and he got fooled every time. So, and I was like, okay. And I went up and, he's one of the leaders of the team. And there was like 8 of us reporters. And I asked him the first question. I was like, all right, take me through your at bat. And I was like, I think the question was like, phrase, how did he pitch? Like, what was his pitch mix? And how was he different from yesterday's starter? He's like, well, he threw faster and he threw more strikes, and I struck out. So there's that. And I was like,
the sky is up, the ground is below us, and you can walk the fuck over there.
Yeah.
Pal.
And I just like, he looked at me after he was done talking because he was on a huge slump. And I was like, I just said, thank you. I'll talk to you later. And I just dipped. I went back to the studio, and that was it. And it was like, how'd it go? And I'm like, well, you can fucking listen to it. It wasn't good.
I don't think we truly appreciate, I don't know if the word's appreciate, but I appreciate it. How many, especially in sports, but in anything, but especially in sports, how many complete non-answer answers happen every single day? Like, I don't have a percentage for you, but if you held a gun to my head and say, Julian, give me a percentage of interviews where the player, coach, or fucking general manager says a whole lot of fucking nothing in a bunch of words that aren't even big words, but they make them sound like, they say them really long and hard, like they sound like they're something. It's probably like 80%. I mean, it's a lot.
And the guy, the poster child of that, who did a great job of that throughout his career was Jeter. Jeter said your stereotypical one-liners, it's, God, he said so many, and he was so freaking good at it.
Bro, you never saw Andy Reid, pal.
Well, yeah, there's that guy too. Yeah, but all these the young players for the Yankees, I've heard stories that they watch Jeter's post-game press conferences. They watch him talk to the media. They tell these young kids coming up, watch him. This is how you're supposed to talk.
Here's how you say fucking nothing.
And you stick to it for 20 years saying nothing. and say the right thing all the time. And that's I feel bad for athletes because they have to be correct every time.
Yeah.
Voicing your opinion nowadays is taboo, and it gets you in trouble. And which is
on anything.
And I give players credit and athletes credit when they do voice their opinion.
Yeah.
Because your career's at stake, your salary, any ad deals you have, or it's all risking. You're risking everything to voice your opinion.
Let me ask you on that specifically, because I think this is this is a very interesting topic because we live in very interesting times. But I get so stressed out when I look at, and you're talking about anything, but I want to focus on one thing specifically. I get really stressed out at the conversations that happen where people are fighting over like athletes talking politics. Because to me, I look at this fairly simply. Anyone who lives in this country and votes and has an opinion has a right to fucking talk and say what they, especially if it's something like near and dear to their heart. Mm-hmm. When they get aggressive about it and like, fuck you if you disagree, that's a little much for me, but it's like I kind of ignore it. Other people who may be on like the side that they're disagreeing with don't, and I get that. It's like whatever. The place where I get pissed off is when they say careless shit that's like not factual and then just keep screaming it on social media.
Just saying speak what's it called? Not thinking before they speak kind of thing.
Completely. Okay. But to me, like the question there, like bearing a question, would be what's your take on it? As we've seen, like politics get injected into everything, and do you have a place where you draw the line, or are you more somebody that's like, you know what, fucking anything goes? They have a platform, they can say what they want, and if they're wrong, we'll check them. I'm
on that route. So you have athletes that have millions of dollars, and they have all this behind them, a giant social media following. Mm-hmm. I say if they're not doing it, I think they're it's a disservice. Like LeBron has done the right things majority of the time. Recently, what he did with his tweet, deleted it, whatever.
He botched that one.
And guess what? He's fucking human.
I think to people, and I've talked about LeBron on this podcast because me and Miles Matthews, we talked about him a bunch. And I got such an interesting relationship with him as an athlete in person. I think there is so much positive with him, but the negative is it just fucking pisses you off because he'll double down on shit. Like that example you're talking about, the one a month ago or a month and a half ago, where it was with he tweeted out the picture of the cop, which was completely wrong. My issue there was, you can't be fucking tweeting a picture of a guy without facts when a simple Google search would have shown you the video that very clearly showed that this was the first fucking competent cop I've seen on a bad video in a long time, where something bad happened. And he took it down, but then he doubled down, and he still doubled down a few weeks ago. And it's like, dude, that's where all these people then scream, yo, fuck you, LeBron, and call him, La China and all that shit, because the whole China thing and everything. Yeah. You give them gas to say that, and I can't look at them and be like, yo, you're completely wrong. I got to look at them and say, yeah, on this one, you're right. And then it creates more division to me. So that's where my line is. It's just like, if you're wrong, if someone walks you up to a wall, pretend this wall's white, and you bring Michelangelo back from the dead and Leonardo da Vinci back from the dead, and you scientifically and artistically explain why the wall's white. The wall's white. Just say it's white. You know what I mean? And some guys, they get so dug in on stuff, and then they get pissed off, and you have a bunch of people in this country who then can blanket statement generalize all of them and say, yo, no athlete should talk. No celebrity should talk, which is total bullshit. But when you have all that attention and you're making a lot of fucking money, there's a level to which you have to be a little bit careful.
It's such a weird line, right? It's like when we watch the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
And someone wins the best actor, and they made $30 million this year, and they're telling me how to eat or telling me how to live. It's kind of hard to take you seriously. I think it's different with athletes, right? I relate to the athlete part differently than watching Joaquin Phoenix telling me how to drink milk.
That was one of the funniest. I'm not gonna lie. I thought
that was hilarious. Yeah. And guess what? Everyone else did. Yeah. Right? It's
people go Google that if you haven't seen it. It is
fucking
pretty
wild.
Fucking hysterical.
It's just weird. It's like I always think for that. It's like you win your award, take it, you say thank you to your agent, thank you to whoever the company that produced it and put it out there, if it's Netflix, whatever, thank the other actors, and go.
So you don't think on that kind of scenario, and again, and you're making the difference, and I want to ask about that. You're making the difference between athletes and we'll just say entertainers in this case.
Yeah.
But like, you don't think in that scenario, like that's a place you wouldn't, if it's like an award show, just stick with the award.
I think stick with the award because I think the athlete part, people relate more. Like people look up to athletes more than actors, I would say. Do you think that? I think kids look up to athletes more than actors.
Actually do agree with that. Yeah, because I think more kids dream about being a star basketball player than they do being the star, like actually dream about it, being the star actor, because they can't walk outside and just act, right? Whereas they can walk outside and pick up a ball and shoot it, you know?
Right. And I think going back to just how these athletes have such a huge following, I think it depends on who is saying the topic. Like if it's LeBron or it's Colin Kaepernick, they're in the right category, right? They're talking it and they've had, I gotta be careful how I say this.
It's okay. Everything goes.
No, I know.
If you say something stupid, I'll check it. Don't worry.
I'm not saying like that. I want to phrase it right, so I don't sound like an idiot.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that certain athletes have a huge platform, and if they have a platform that they can project positive energy out and positive reinforcement and how to change a negative situation into a positive, they should do it.
Yeah.
Like what LeBron has done and what Colin Kaepernick's done. And now look, and look, everyone deserves and is okay to make a mistake.
Yes, I agree with that.
Nowadays, you can't make it. You can't make a mistake because if you do, your fucking life's over.
And that's a huge problem.
And I don't.
And I want to be clear. I am not like with the LeBron example. Mm-hmm. Even though that mistake was a little bigger because he dox somebody and put his picture out, which is not, you can't do that. Yeah. If he had just deleted it, and I don't even need him to apologize, just be like, oh shit, whatever, I'm fine. Like, it wasn't great, whatever, we move on, it was a tweet. But when you double down on shit, that bothers me. And like with Kaepernick, people were so shut down to what he was trying to do that then the issue got way, and to his credit, he got a lot more attention on it through it because the issue got way bigger because what he was doing wasn't a big deal, and there were people, I guess, on the opposite side of the issue who have certain beliefs who were just like, no, fuck that. We don't want any of that in our sports and whatever. And it's like, well, that's why it then got more rampant because people are like, see, you guys don't listen.
Yeah. You know how easy it is to just take a deep breath, sit down for a second, really look into it. And then if you still don't agree with what it is, what they're projecting, then that's your opinion. But people are so quick to judge and so quick to just jump on an opinion without even fucking thinking about it. It's I mean, that's been the fucking as old as time. But even nowadays,
they have a keyboard.
It's fucking easy. Yeah. It's so fucking easy just to look into something and know what they're actually doing.
People, I forget the exact stat, but just as one example, it's something like 85% of all Google searches don't go past the first result. Like it's, I'll have to check that. But either way, it's a ridiculous number. And now put that context in everything with headlines and all the information thrown at people. The one thing I will empathize with everyone on is like, think of all the news stories every day across everything. Yeah. Whether you're a big sports fan, there's news stories across sports and then the news, right? What's going on in the world, entertainment, whatever. It's all thrown at you all the time. And yet you sleep 7 hours out of every 24, 6, 7, whatever it is.
When you wake up, it's fucking right there.
Right. It's there. And then you have a life. You have a job. You may have kids. You got shit going on.
You're still getting the notification just...
That's the point. How many things are you saying, yo, let me do my research on this? How much time can you say, I'm going to read past this headline?
Yeah.
So we get mad at people when they jump to conclusions because they only read headlines. And like, it is frustrating sometimes, especially when someone then has a really bad take on something. But I get it in the sense that there's so much shit going on during your day. How come with everything that the media all throws at people all the time, how do you expect them to sit there and be like, you know what, I'm going to do my homework on this? It's hard, man.
There's not a lot of time in the day to read 2-3 articles to get knowledge on a topic. Once you read a headline, look, I think we've all done that.
Yeah, 100%.
Or I read a headline, I sent it to somebody, I'm like, hey, did you see this? And it's like, did you read the fucking article? I'm like, well, no, I'm fucking, driving, it's just like whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's just a problem. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to still progress the way it's doing right now. I think, or it could get worse. I mean, clickbaity thumbnails are a huge thing. We all, you try doing it, I do it, we all do it to get people to just click and open up their video, or open up an article or a blog.
You better hope you have value behind it,
And that's the thing, right? You can do clickbaity shit, but if there's intent, there's value, there's information to back it up, and it's there, then okay. But majority of the time, it's not. And
I think that the arguments, or not the argument, the issue has quote unquote like infected a lot of it's everywhere in culture, right? And so now everyone has an opinion on it. People who have never watched a basketball game have these wild opinions of LeBron James, and also happen to have wild opinions of him in the history of the NBA versus like Michael Jordan as like a comparison. And it's like we're at that point now where everyone, including your grandparents, maybe they're not on Twitter, but like
Facebook,
dude, Facebook, they can send the quickest thought out. And that is what these companies feed on. There was that time where when social media was born, we didn't realize it, but we were the product.
We were the test dummies. Fuck yeah.
100%, and not even the test dummies. We were the end result too, and that's why when all this data leak stuff comes out and stuff, why are people pissed? Because that's how Facebook's making the money. They're making the money off of what we give them as people.
No, it's crazy, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to get better or worse, because we're just so used to it.
Yeah,
we're just so used to giving off of our opinion, and you're right. There's people that don't like. For instance, Clubhouse has been a great source for people to voice their opinion that have never talked before in front of people that like the same shit.
Yeah. What do you think about where Clubhouse stands right now?
Well,
I'm talking about the app.
You nominated me.
I did back in the day now.
Yeah, back in the day, right?
Yeah,
I think
January.
Yeah, end of January. Yeah, I love it. I do and I don't. I really utilize it well.
You do. I agree.
I'm on it a lot. It used to be like an unhealthy amount, but now it's back to where it's like I'm productive with other shit, and I can be on Clubhouse, whatever. The app is great, and it's first got on it because I heard it on a podcast or something, and I was like, look, if this is like a LinkedIn thing but better, I'm gonna just do it. Get on it. You nominated me. I started talking to you and Giovanni and some of the other people that I met early on, and then I used it more for networking. I was in rooms like television rooms or sports rooms or video editing rooms, and I kind of learned some shit, took a lot of notes, and it was productive. And then I met cool people on it. It's like the 2021's version of like AOL chat room. I never had an AOL like Messenger, whatever it was called.
Yeah, that's some old school.
That's
shit.
Old school shit. Yeah. But I've made close friends. I have a club that has over 1K followers on it, which is great.
That's the MLB club.
Yeah, and
it's like the official
MLB on CH. Yeah, it's great. And I had an agent yesterday and a former MLB of the year manager, AL manager of the year, Jeff Bannister, was in the room a couple of days ago. We had a long conversation about baseball, mental health in baseball, whatever. And I have rooms, twice, 3 times a week for an hour. And I'm slowly getting a quick following. It's been about 2 months. And I've also met friends that I've like hung out in person with.
That's cool.
I'm meeting some on Sunday for brunch. And it's like this 3rd time I've met them in person. And we do Zooms or FaceTimes or whatever, but it's like another friend group I have. But for the people that are listening, like, Clubhouse is a place that people have never had a voice before, that are quiet, that are nervous to talk to people. I've seen people personally that don't talk at all. Just can't stop talking now because it's behind a wall. You're not video. You're not seeing faces. You're just hearing people talk. And I think it's great.
So I think this is actually where it gets complicated for Clubhouse because, and I'm glad you brought this up because I've been thinking about this app a lot and I haven't really been on it in the last couple months. And I think there's a lot of issues there. And I was a very big fan at the very beginning, and we can get into that and like why I was thinking that and see where this whole ship's going. But the point on people who have never had a voice now have a voice. On the surface, that seems amazing, right? And for some people it is, in my opinion.
I know you're going with this.
Right? But there are a lot of people who now, because it's behind the screen and they can go into rooms like almost like, what was that old app where you used to go room to room and there'd be like fucking people beating off and shit? The chat roulette or whatever. Yeah. Like, and that's exaggeration, but it's almost like you can go in a room with people you don't know and like suddenly puff your chest and have a big voice, which to me at the beginning, I was looking at a lot of positives with that because I'm like, oh, so people have to be able to talk. So all these people who are fucking body bagging people from behind a keyboard on Twitter, if they talk like this, fuck you, man. Like people are gonna be like, get the fuck out of here, you know? Whereas the people who actually can state an opinion and have evidence and be able to go back and forth and converse, they're gonna win. The people that aren't talkative though, that get talkative on there, and this is why this was the important point. A lot of them are people who are just like suddenly taking advantage of the fact that they don't know anyone in there, and they get all excited and they're like, oh, I can say whatever the fuck I want. So it kind of went the opposite way of what I thought. And we're seeing a lot of rooms that invaded the app. I started to notice it in like mid-February where it was just grifter fucking city. And at the beginning of the app, the reason I liked it is because I had a community of about 10 guys who were like my guys, like I knew them, right? And we were all going back and forth on stuff, and we all had different connections, so we could have interesting conversations on there, and our rooms were amazing. And then some rooms I would go into, this is earlier on in the app, maybe like January, they would be really impressive, and to your point, you get some really interesting people in there. But you started to see where, and you can see it in the numbers, when the numbers spiked in like February with 10 million downloads in a month, you started to see all these people come in, and then the rooms got so big, and then they got, you know, they even like got politicized in some ways. I don't even want to say that. They've just got like crazy in some of them. And then it got to a point where you had, you know, you had to like ask permission to speak in rooms and say your name at the end of it, and it was so unnatural. And I started saying to myself, you know, the thing I had been so afraid of was that the LinkedIn mafia and Grifter City was going to invade this app and make it difficult to go room to room and find real shit. And that is exactly what happened. Because the difference between like Twitter and Clubhouse is that on Twitter, you can scroll quickly and get keywords and get a feel for, oh no, I don't fuck with that. Oh, I fuck with this. Okay, I want to type in this word, whatever. On Clubhouse, you can only see the name of a room, which that's never the only thing they talk about, whatever it is.
Right.
And you have to go in there and invest for a couple minutes and listen to whether these people suck or if it's like something worthwhile. And so I got to a point in March where I started going room to room. Like when I'd hop around, I'm like, well, this sucks. This sucks. Oh, that guy's a fucking dickbag. And then you'd see people that are, you know, they get on their high horse and they start kicking people out of rooms who disagree with them. And I started to go, oh, shit. And then a friend of mine sent me a tweet that then went viral. He sent it to me like 3 minutes before the guy posted it. But it was this, I forget the guy's name. I think he co-hosts a podcast with Chamath Palapataya. I never say his name right, so I hope I got that right. And he was like the famous VC guy who worked at, he was the head of Facebook growth for a long time. And it became a very famous thread. He wrote it on March 16th, I believe. And he said, not that I want this to happen because I like seeing companies succeed, but I've been getting a feeling the Clubhouse is going to fail. And if it does, here's my theory on how it's going to happen. And he wrote like 45 tweets as like it was like a story, like a narration. And I read through it, and I texted my buddy who sent it to me back, and I'm like, oh boy, Bill, I don't know that I can argue with anything he said. I think he's kind of right. And he's like, bro, I think he's going to be right. And now we've seen the numbers, like April took a swan dive, May's not looking good, and you're seeing these rooms that used to have 5,000 people in them. When I go on the app and check it, they have fucking 100 now.
Yeah, it's become... I'll definitely say that the hype, the excitement has gone away.
Yeah.
Because you have this brand new thing. Nobody knows. Everyone's new, right? It's like going to college freshman year. You can start over. You can be a new person. You can start here on a new social media platform.
Yep.
Everyone's at zero at the same time. But, technically.
Technically, yes.
And I can definitely say the excitement isn't there as much as it used to be, where I'd be like, I'm going to go on Clubhouse and be on till like 2 a.m. and talk sports or talk tech or talk media, whatever. The word expert has been thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like that word has been circulating around Clubhouse for months now, where it's like you can't call yourself an expert if you don't have any credentials, if you don't have anything to back up what you're saying. Like, look, if a fucking therapist is on Clubhouse with all her degrees in her bio and then there's evidence to show, she has the right to talk about it.
Yeah. You hope, and you hope that's accurate. It's
Right.
another point, but yes.
I can't give fucking advice on how to live your life when you have all these different issues, and I'm telling you, hey, look, fuck all that shit. Do this, this, and this. I don't have the right to do that.
No.
And that's scary. And when I've seen that, and people have been called out, and people have been thrown into the fire, if you will, in front of hundreds of people. So you can't fucking do this. And there's a lot of scammers on there, people that are trying to sell them. They're trying to be, what's his name? The guy who looks like an Easter Island head. Fucking
A what head?
one of those Eastern Island heads. The fucking he's like a motivational speaker. Big teeth. What's his name?
David Meltzer?
No, not Meltzer. I know who that is. Big guy. He's huge. Billions of dollars. Think of motivational speakers.
I don't know.
I'm like, forget. I'm like,
I know a ton of, not Grant Cardone.
No, people don't like him.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
No.
He says the same shit over and over.
Over and over again. He's terrible on the app. People fucking hate that guy, Grant Cardone. I'm like trying to think of the guy's name. He's like the biggest motivational speaker on the planet.
What?
Some dude, some guy. I'm like forgetting his name.
Either way. Okay.
Whatever. People will trying to be this motivational speaker or this,
Including like 20-year-olds.
which pissed me the fuck off, man. I'm like, when I'm listening to a 22-year-old telling me how to live my life, motherfucker, you don't know shit. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. You just graduated college, and you think you got all figured out.
Everyone watched Gary Vee videos, and this is the downside of it.
I love Gary Vee.
But that's the thing. His context, he's made a lot of people think some things about themselves or capabilities about themselves, or not even capabilities, like things where they are meant to be. He makes it seem like, oh, you can totally be there. And it's like, well, not everyone. Maybe not everyone's going to be that type of guy. And then all these people hear it, and what happens is they get so excited by it and they feel the motivation, so then they just want to pass that on to other people. And then, they're fucking 21 with no experience, sitting in their parents' house and talking about how when it gets hard, you just got to push through, go to the next level. And it's like, you're also not very convincing doing it, you know?
But I like Gary Vee. I've listened to his stuff. Do I believe everything that he always says? No, but
You're not talking about Tony Robbins, by the way.
I am talking about Tony Robbins.
It was Tony Robbins? What did you say? Is an Easter Island head?
Yeah, his head's fucking huge. Am I wrong?
He's got a huge head, but what's an Easter Island head?
Isn't Easter Island one of those like the giant sculptures? Like those huge sculptures?
I have no idea, but
he just looks fucking.
hilarious.
Everybody wants to be like Tony Robbins on Clubhouse.
You know what I think?
Dude, fucking 15 minutes to figure out the fucking name.
You know what I think was one of the biggest mistakes they made? It was one I saw right away, and I didn't think much of it. I'm like, it won't matter that much. They allowed the profiles to be like 5,000 characters instead of.
Go look at mine.
And yours is long, but not in the context of this app. There are like yours is way longer than I would do, but it's like it's all in one spot, right? And so what happens is everyone LinkedIn, like the LinkedIn mafia came in and people followed that. And what they do is, you could be a fucking janitor and they will make it sound like they founded the 33rd fucking basketball team in the NBA. I mean, it's like,
There's
and then
some
I did this,
people
and
where
then
it's like you.
oh my god! And there were funny threads going around in February that I loved. That was like it would be like famous people, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, whatever, and then it would say Elon Musk on Clubhouse, and like it would have the first one would be like Elon Musk like Dogecoin to the moon, because like that's just what he would put in there, or like hashtag Bitcoin. Too soon with that. But the second one would be Elon Musk, and it would list all the shit he did and try to make it sound like prose. And you're reading it and you're like, oh my God, that's what people do. Because you would read that, you'd be like, this guy doesn't fucking do any of this.
Yeah, you know what? The excitement came from the fact that me, you, and a bunch of other people are starting at the same time as Elon Musk, or as Tim Dillon, or as Lex Friedman.
Yeah.
Right. We're all there at the same time, and we're all trying to figure out together. It's not like, we're all like, imagine I know I wasn't. Like, imagine if I jumped on Twitter when Twitter first came out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's an excitement where an app that's become, it's what are they worth? $4 billion now, Clubhouse? They got evaluated at $4 billion.
They're not worth anywhere near that now.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the excitement for that, I was like, dude, I tried convincing my friends. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
I started to notice that too, because then like as more people used it, the funny thing is they locked it off. You had to get invited, but still it was almost like people joined too fast and there was too many new people every day. And so you couldn't keep up with it, in the sense that they're learning rooms and then they're like invading rooms too, because they don't know what to do. And there's this, I started to feel it.
It's like we got off the training wheels way too fast.
Yes, and you just said something important there, where you're like, being first to something and how cool that is. One of the things that I also discounted at the beginning, because again, like, and maybe part of it was coming out still like mid-pandemic and people were just dying to fucking talk to each other, but I wasn't. I do this for a living, right? I talk to people all day. Like, like when I'm not editing, I'm fucking on the phone with people, or I'm sitting in here for hours with people. So it's not like I was craving that at all, but I just thought it was fucking cool. And I'm like, oh, and a lot of people are probably craving this. But I've always looked at like my theory, and it's not my theory. This is definitely like a known thing, but it's pretty obvious. When you look at every social platform that's ever grown, I'll even start at MySpace, but you know what? Discount them. Call it Facebook, right? Like one that's still around. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even kind of YouTube back in the day, right? Different, not totally social, but you'll get where I'm going with this. And then think about, I guess, go to like TikTok, Snapchat. All of these platforms were started as in not necessarily started, but the people who went there in mass first were between the ages of 12 and 18. And I would even say that like 15 to 17-year-old range. Culture goes where the people who are literally at the earliest stages of coming of age go. And the one thing Clubhouse didn't have that I thought, man, that's cool, it's an outlier. And now I look back and I go, no, it wasn't. That's why. Is that they didn't really have a ton of really young people on there. The people who were stars on the app were fucking millennials or even like some Gen Xers. And that, it's more proof that when you need the luster on the app, you got to get the kids first, even if that means people make fun of it, like with TikTok. I was on TikTok on a blank account because I worked at a fucking bank. I couldn't do anything on TikTok. I was on TikTok in early 2019. And I tried to tell everyone I fucking know who had a talent about it and say, drop everything you're doing and go to TikTok. And they all laughed at me. Said, oh, that's all for the fucking 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. And I'm like, you say that now. That's where people are going to be. I never had that moment with Clubhouse because they weren't fucking there. It was the older people.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And it's so weird because they just, I don't know if it's still, but the invite-only thing was very interesting.
Yeah.
Where you can only get on the app if someone invited you, nominated you to come. And they just invited Android now. They have, their infrastructure is strong enough for the most part that they can have.
They were iPhone only.
iPhone only. And it would now, I mean, Android's fucking huge.
Yeah.
People don't realize because everybody has an iPhone, but you have everyone on the other side of the world, there's billions of people, and a lot of them have Android. You know, that's a huge chunk that's not on the app. Now, and I have this talk with my friends all the time. And right, we got on mid-pandemic, end of January. Things are still shut down.
And we were also remember, this is important. We were curating our rooms. Like, we had good rooms of, these weren't the huge rooms of like 10, 500 people.
15.
Yes.
Small.
Yes.
And what was interesting is that now I talk to friends now where I'm in rooms all the time with the same people, and we have a clique, cool group of friends, and we talk offline. And we always say, like, hey, so is this going to be big in the summer? Where this was like April, we were talking about this.
Yeah.
In March, talking about, hey, look, vaccines are starting to come out. While vaccines come out, people get vaccinated. Of course, the restrictions will get, lighter and lighter.
Sure.
So it's like, is this app still going to be popping and still going to be excited to be on in the middle of July? And I was on the optimistic, positive side, like, yeah, it's still going to be good. It's still going to be exciting. And I had some friends say, hey, I think it's going to be extremely different than it was before. And now I kind of agree with them. Yeah. People. I don't want to be on my phone while I'm at a bar in the city.
You can't click in and click out. You can click in and click out of Instagram and Twitter. 2 seconds, right? You can't really do that on Clubhouse. There's like
you can if you're just sitting in the audio. If you're just sitting there listening, you can just click out easy. But like, don't you want to talk about the topic you're in the room for?
And also, you're around what happens when you're around other people. You're going to be sitting there in the middle of a bar listening to fucking Clubhouse? No, you're not.
People will fucking smack you over and say, get off your phone.
Whereas you can send a quick tweet at the bar.
And then close your phone.
Exactly.
Right.
Boom. It's like you're sending a text.
Look, I'm always positive with shit like this. I want to be on the right side. I don't want to really think about the real thing that's going to happen. Like, I think Clubhouse is going to be around for a while. I just don't think it's going to be popular in the next year or two. I just don't see it.
And then how does it have staying power? Because now
unless
Twitter figured it out. Twitter's got spaces.
Right. But it's all about advertising and getting. Look, the NFL just partnered with Clubhouse recently.
You know what though? The other problem was shitting where you eat, and this was an issue. One of the things I liked about it is that the founders, Paul and Rohan, would be in a lot of the big rooms, and they wouldn't be on stage most of the time. They'd be right there.
Because as soon as they go on stage, the room blows up to 7,000 people.
Well, not even just that. I'm talking about rooms that were already big, right? Like when there was the max at 5,000. They'd be there right in the audience, right at the top, listening in. And even when people were criticizing things on the app, they were listening. And I'm like, wow, these guys are like really in there. The people who invested in the company, though, Andreessen Horowitz, which is an amazing venture capital firm. I mean, it's one of the most historical ones out there. They started becoming stars on the app. Like, they had the Good Time show and everything. And then they had Elon Musk come in there one time. They had Mark Zuckerberg another time. And I started to notice that these are people who are great venture capitalists, but they never had a podcast or something like that. Like, that wasn't their lane. And now they were incentivized to also be on the app all the time because they were invested in the goddamn company. And they were kind of like getting high on their own supply and not noticing some of the very problems that were happening. Prime example, by the way. What's his name? Horowitz's wife, Felicia Horowitz, ended up being like a mate. She was there day one of the app, obviously. She ended up being like a major host on the app for like a couple weekly shows that would have 5,000 and then eventually whatever the maximum was, 10,000 people in the room, and like serious people that she was interviewing. They would put like Gail, what's her name? Gail
King?
Yeah, Gail King, Van Jones, like some big people. They would put them up on stage with Felicia for these rooms, and they'd sit there and not say anything. And Felicia, who's not a pro like them, like not on that level at all, is fucking running the room. And sometimes it was awkward. And I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck do you like? You're bringing up Gail King and Gail's probably fucking going about her day and just is doing them a favor to sit on stage and have her face up there. And why are you not leveraging that? Leverage the talent. And there was such a mistake with that because then, even the Good Time show had the people literally from Andreessen Horowitz hosting it. And I'm like, they're not like that good at this, And so there was a mistake there.
There's an ego thing too, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, I think the app needs to, like, of course, the purity of it is that there's no video and there's no chat rooms.
Yeah.
It's all about back channeling. You go to Instagram, Twitter if you want to get extensive conversation, right? Making deals or making communications, whatever. But I'm going to continue to be on it. as much as I can.
You're using it well, I might add, and I'm not just plugging you here. Like, you got out in front of being like in charge of the official MLB page, which is pretty cool. And what's funny, curating great rooms.
Yeah, there's a lot of other baseball rooms, and I have people coming in, and I let them do it, but they plug their own clubs and whatever. But it's like the baseball community is pretty small on Clubhouse, and there's like this Clubhouse Twitter page, not the main one, but there's another one for like statistics. And I'm ranked in the top 10 baseball rooms every month so far. Yeah. I'm like 8th or 9th, but it's kind of annoying that the other 7 or 8 clubs that are in front of me are categorized in baseball because they generally talk about all sports. So it's just like, it's just in that category, which is annoying. If you took those people away, if it was just talk about general baseball, I'd probably be 1 or 2. When it comes to followers and whatever. Yeah. But did I do it because I'm trying to grow my own following? Abso-fucking-lutely. I'm trying to grow myself and show people that I have, I have knowledge, I have talent, I have experience talking about baseball. That's what's my number one sport. I played in college. I played my whole life. I've covered it before. And I'm also trying to make, I'm trying to make contacts. I'm trying to bring some people that I know onto the app so I could interview them on the app and kind of help the baseball community. The head of sports, I think it is, on Clubhouse, just followed the club the other day. Oh, that's cool. Which is big. I got very nervous right away when I created it because it's MLB. IP is very important. You don't want to. And I remember when, in the beginning, you could only have a club. You could request for a club, but you needed to host rooms 3 times a week for 3 or 4 weeks. And then they review your request and they see through information of how many rooms you've hosted or whatever, and then they approve it. And I didn't even do that because I wasn't hosting rooms that often. So I waited until Clubhouse let the floodgates open, where it was you can create 2 rooms a month. And I remember I was working at WFAN late shift, like I always do, and I stayed later so I had the ability to create the club as soon as the update came out. Yeah. I waited an extra hour. So I didn't want to be driving on, over the bridge and it fucking opens up and I'm going to get in a car accident because I'm putting this shit together. Yeah. So I made it and I was so excited. By the way. Right. Very smart. Thank you. I was so excited. It's MLB on CH because you actually couldn't put Clubhouse in the title. For some reason, you just couldn't have it. So I did that. And then I made the second room as like a backup because I don't know if like they would kick it off because it has MLB on it. But as of right now, it's been great. Nothing's happened. And I remember that night was so hectic because people, the app was crashing because everyone was trying to create a club. And I got in quickly. And then I went into a room with an IP lawyer in it. And there was 400 people in it. Yeah. Some people I knew that were moderators on the stage brought me up because they knew I was creating a club. And I asked the question. The topic came up about like brands. Yeah. And I said, they're like, you get lucky, you can have your own room, whatever the company is. And I said that on stage. It was the first room I went in. So the second room I went in was the IP lawyer. The first room I went in was a bunch of people that had huge followings, 10,000, 12,000, 20,000 followers. And I said that I just created a baseball room called MLB on CH, and they all started laughing because they said, Taylor, you might have hit a gold mine. Because there's situations where, well, look.
It's SEO City.
One, MLB can come to me and say, like, we want this, we'll buy it from you. Whatever. Odds of it happening, super slim. Yeah. 2. MLB can come to me and say, we want to partner with you. You host rooms, we'll pay you. It's a job. 3, fuck you, we're taking it.
And that's where the IP thing comes in.
Right. And then I got super excited, and then I got nervous, and then I saw this IP room, and I'm on the way home, and I'm listening to Clubhouse, and I have like my AirPods in, and I asked the question, and she basically told me they can just take it from you because this is Major League Baseball, $1 billion company. Yeah. They're not going to fuck around.
Yeah, you have a whole legal team ready to fight that bad boy?
Yeah, I got a whole fucking legal, fucking 20 people behind me.
You got like 12 of the boys from Long Island lined up with bats and everything.
Yeah, and then when she said it, I left the room and I started sweating. I'm like, oh, fuck. And
nothing would happen to you. They just take it.
They'll just take it, but I don't want it. I want to have it.
Yeah.
And then you put disclaimers out. So this is a fan page. We're not affiliated, whatever. So I did my due diligence. I did my homework. I asked people that have been in situations in your past on Facebook or Instagram, and they'd say like, you're fine as long as no one comes after you. I said, well, thank you.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What the fuck does that mean to come out, bash my fucking door in? But look, the grand scheme of things, I want to grow baseball on the app. I want to grow it. I want to grow sports on the app because I want to just become the guy that people come to.
Well, are you looking? The other thing is like you have built a community there. You have built a name there.
Yeah.
People have effectively moved that to Spaces as like, you don't have to leave Twitter to do it. Have you looked at also doing that over there?
I've looked at it. I haven't which is fucking crazy.
You should do that.
I've gained more followers on Clubhouse since January to now. I have more followers on Clubhouse than I do on Twitter, and I've had Twitter for fucking.
Twitter's weird getting followers, man. I never even talk about my Twitter.
People don't understand.
Ever.
If you were trying to get into the sports media space or entertainment or whatever you're trying to do in that realm, it is so hard to get a following. You have to be funny on Twitter. You have to be creative. You have to throw memes and videos.
You have to be on there 24/7.
And I am, and it's annoying.
But
I hate it.
You have to be incredibly strategic on there 24/7. And like you're on it, but like you're doing a lot of other shit too, because you run all your own shit. You are responsible for your entire product. There's a level to which, like, based on the work you do and how you're building, you can't do what some of these other guys did, where they just sit there all fucking day. Like, prime example, the Pomp's younger brother, I think it's Joe, right? He's got a sports newsletter. He does two things all day, nothing else. He does fucking making his newsletter, which, how's he making his newsletter? He's amalgamating things off of Twitter, that's his news source, and then also interacting on there, and he's spending his every waking second on Twitter and putting out value there 24/7, creating threads that are very retweetable because they're on specific things that he does research on. So he's built a huge following. That's how you do it. Like, if you wanted to break down and do something like that, great, but like, I love Twitter, and I'm a writing guy, so I can write some great tweets and whatever, but Twitter's like my private diary in a way right now. Like, I don't fucking, I got 10 fucking people on there, and like, I go there as my source for news, and it is not worth my time to invest in actually doing that stuff. But I think with Spaces, this is why it's important. I think you can drive there because you have the credibility of that other community, and frankly, we are seeing a big, whether or not Clubhouse ends up staying around or not, like, they'll definitely make something off their IP if they sell it, but we're seeing a big community move to Twitter.
Yeah, and I think with Clubhouse, I think they're going to do where I think the purity will go away of how unique Clubhouse is. They're going to start bringing in celebrities and bringing in names.
They already have.
Right, but I'm saying, like, I'm talking the biggest fucking names, like the Kardashians.
They brought in Eminem the other day. Yeah.
Right. So they have there's people that are willing to go on. Like, there was Tim Dillon, who was on it for a while, and then
he's out, man.
Because he's fucking doing his job now. This is what we're talking about. He's back on the road doing his gigs.
But he also, and that's the issue, guys who were a big fan of it are speaking out against it. He's going out of his way to say this app is fucking terrible. That's a problem. That's a brand problem.
And they got to just find the right people.
Yeah.
And that's it. And look, it's for young people like you and I who are trying to grow personal brands and content brands.
The personal brand.
Personal brand, right? Yeah. It's fucking hard. People don't really get it. When you want to be in the sports industry, they don't get how hard it is. They just talking to friends, and they say, "Hey, like, you're doing a good job. You're grinding." But like, they
have lives, man.
Why don't you come out this weekend?
Yeah.
No, but like you don't.
Yep.
You don't get it. Family, they'll say like, we get it, but do you though?
This is with and like you talk about sports, and you're 100% right, but it's with anything that you're building. If once you go do it, when you burn the boats and say like, I'm putting all my efforts into this, I mean,
everything in the pot.
For you, I know you spend 100% of your time is spent filling gigs at WFAN for you to make some money, right? And also you're at one of the granddaddies of them all. You're at WFAN, so it's nice. You get good connections there. And the rest of your time is spent on your product and spent on building yourself out as a preeminent leader you want to be a leader in the baseball space specifically, but you obviously know about all the sports, and you can definitely, if you want to, morph into all of them.
Sure.
People that don't have that as their vision, people who don't miss their brother Jake's graduation, again, fuck you, Jake, on a Sunday to go do go. I don't mean it, Jake. I'm sure you're a nice guy. You know, your brother loves you too, I promise you. But, you know, people who are willing to do that, to go be like, yo, okay, here's the value I can get to be able to continue to build my public resume, right? And also get the reps in and everything. The people who aren't doing that shit, they're never going to get it. And like, you have to, but that's the thing. You got to be okay with that. You have to be okay with like someone just being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like someone you care about, they don't mean anything by it. They're just like, what are you doing? And you got to be okay with saying, listen, man, like it is what it is. You know?
See, this is something I tell, I learned, I'm very lucky I learned this early on. I learned early on a couple things. If you want to be in the business for a long time, early on, you need to learn how to do everything.
Yes.
Another thing is, if you want to be successful in the business, you have to be willing to not make any money.
For a while.
For a long time.
Yep.
Another thing is, you need to just be able to fucking grind and be able to be okay with missing things. And also in life. Yeah. Missing birthdays, holidays, anniversary, whatever the fuck it is. Anything that's important to you, you're going to miss it. I haven't been to a family Passover in 6 years. I've worked.
Yeah.
It's just a Christmas Eve. I worked Christmas Eve. It's just like you got just, if you want to fucking.
Oh yeah, you got both worlds. I forgot about that.
Right. If you want to hit your goal, like I've had goals. I remember I wanted to do this for a living when I was in like 9th grade. Guidance counselor asked me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in college? What do you want to do in high school? Focus on. I said, I can't play baseball for the Yankees. I want to interview players. This is what I want to do. It's going to take me a long time to hit the goal. I remember when I was younger, I said 27, I want to be making 6 figures, and I want to do my thing.
Ain't it funny how we picked that out when we're young? Like, that age, I'll have this, I'll have that.
Bro, people thought I was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, guys, my friends were just trying to get girls at fucking, in college. I'm working on my career. Like, I'm working on trying to get my shit together, and I had goals set, like, I wanted to work for some sports team at 21. I did it at 20.
Well, you did do that, yeah.
I did it at 20. Yeah. I said I want to work for a Major League Baseball team at 25. I did it at 23. I want to work for a radio station at, I think it was like 26, and I did it at 24.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting all these goals, and now I'm in a window where I've been working at WFAN. Do I like the job title I have? No. But I know it's a part of the gig. You need to fucking just keep working. I have a lot of friends around me that work there that just keep grinding. Yeah. We're all in it together. And I've had people, I've met countless people that talk, but they don't walk it. They don't fucking do it. They just talk about doing it, and they just don't, and they quit.
Well, there's another side to it, too, that's really important that you're not saying, that I think you back up well. You can't, like, yes, you absolutely must do all that stuff, and you absolutely must accept some things and be okay with it and grind and stuff. You also have to be making clear progress. You like you pointing out each of those steps that you wanted, even if there wasn't a monetary stuff attached to it yet.
Yeah,
like you hit those progress points. You got to those things. There are a lot of people, and this is where I think, and I don't think it's his intention, but this is where Gary Vee's message gets lost, because people get lost in listening to him just say, you just gotta fucking grind, man. You gotta hustle. Do you understand that? I didn't fuck until I was 35. Like, people hear this and they're like, oh, that's all I gotta do. Not fuck till I'm 35 and just do something and like it'll work. You have to be honest about where your talent is, number one. And you also have to be honest about what type of progress you are making. If you are just working hard every day and not getting anywhere, it's not going to fucking go anywhere, and it shouldn't. And unfortunately, and I empathize so much with people like that, because I see guys who are just fucking grinding and they're not getting anywhere. They're not making progress, and they're like, oh, if I just keep fucking doing it, like, it'll be cool. And it's like, oh, damn, like, they actually are working hard, but they're not working hard towards something, and they're not going to get rewarded. You got to be really fucking careful with that. And so, like,
guess what?
Kudos to you for being careful with that.
Well, but I've had stages like that. I won't lie here.
Sure.
Where I've been in stages where, and let's be clear, everybody, I'm 26, still grinding. I might have worked for the Giants, the New York Giants, Minnesota Twins. I worked for WFAN. I've done radio here and there. I've done this much, and I know that.
For the people listening, he's holding up his fingers.
Yes, thank you.
Very tightly together.
Yes. I've done a very small amount of things. And to some people that are outside sports, think I've done so much. And I might not give myself credit, but like I'm nowhere near where my goal is.
I think I think you have a good mindset. I do want you to give yourself some credit, but I think you have a good mindset.
And my father gives me a lot of shit for not giving myself credit for the shit I've done. Like I was raised not to be a bragging asshole.
Yeah.
Be very humble. But I've almost taken that humble approach too far. Where I'm not telling people, hey, look, like when I apply for jobs where I'm talking to people in the industry that have a higher power, and there's been in the past, I've never like.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I've met people that brag about shit that I'm like, you're impressed by that shit? Like that shit's not great.
There's a fine line between bragging and also what'd you say earlier, owning it. Right, it's a very fine line,
and
you have to own.
In the last year or so, I've done a lot better about promoting myself instead of bragging.
Yeah,
like I tell people I interviewed Mike Trout, which is one of the coolest things I'll ever do.
Yeah, it's a resume builder, man.
It's one of
the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, it's a name, and the fact that I got to do that for 3 minutes is something that 90% of the world is never going to be able to do.
A lot more than 90%. But yeah.
Whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know.
Not a lot of people will ever do that. Yeah. And I got to do that at 23 years old, which was some of the coolest shit I'll ever do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like when you said about guys that are working hard and grinding, but nothing's happening, and like I said before, I've been in situations, and sometimes during the last year or so, I've been in situations like that where I've worked my ass off and I just don't see anything moving. And people tell me and have to keep reminding me that like the sports industry is in a frozen zone.
What do you mean a frozen zone?
Where that's kind of like a term I've heard a couple times from people that are in the industry, where it's like they're starting to rehire people that they fired a year ago, and nobody's hiring. Nobody's giving anybody jobs. It's very small amount. People are getting jobs.
Why is that?
The sports industry got hit pretty hard.
In
television, and radio entertainment, they got hit very hard, and some people don't like.
So they're not creating new jobs. You're saying?
Some networks are creating new jobs, and some people that are talented enough, more talented than me, are getting jobs. And it's about It's about what I've learned too about this industry. It's about timing, and it's about who you know, and that's not just sports and entertainment. That's everything. But just in my experience, it's what I've learned. Last year or two, just really hitting hard. Yeah. And there's been so many times over the last 3 years where I felt like quitting. Like all the time. But I tell myself, there's like something in the back of my mind that tells me that you're talented enough and don't quit. And I don't want to sound like an inspirational, motivational speaker.
I know what you're saying right now.
This is my own personal account where I'd be driving home from work at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, this fucking sucks. I hate this shit. I'm making no money. I'm still living at home. I'm working my ass off. And then there's always one moment that like the week after something cool would happen, where I'll interview someone for my podcast, where it's like, I just interviewed Scott Hansen, who hosts the NFL Red Zone, or I interview Chris Rose, or I interview Craig Carton, or I interview this person, or I talk to somebody. And it tells me like, hey, look, this is what you can do for the rest of your career if you keep pushing. And that's where someone told me that early on when I was really young. You'll find moments in your early career that will keep pushing you.
Yeah. You get a little teeny taste.
A tiny taste.
And you're like, I want to make that whole entree.
It's right there. I'm right there. And I've been telling myself during the pandemic, I said, Taylor, you keep doing what you've been doing, keep going a little bit harder every day. There's going to be days where you're going to have no confidence, you're going to have no ambition to do it, and there's going to be other days you're going to have the hardest drive ever to get your work done. And I tell myself, and I'm serious about this, and people think I'm crazy, like I think I'm so close to starting my goal. And then once the goal is, when I touch it, when I first start the goal, my job, whatever it's going to be, I tell somebody, I say, look, once you give me a yes, watch the fuck out. Yeah. Because I want to give you 110%. I'm going to give you a good product, whatever it's going to be. And
And by the way, and I said this earlier, but you can say that a lot more than you could have 2 years ago. A lot more.
Yeah,
because
there's
the resume,
more product out.
It's not even just more product. It's better. It's significantly better because you got the reps. You've gotten to better and better people as well. You're not. I mean, obviously, like you have a decent audience on audio, but you haven't even focused on YouTube or something like that at all, right? You're not even there yet, but you are talking with some of these important people, and you're keeping conversations rolling and interesting, and getting things that they don't get to say on their own cameras in life, right? Like when it's a Scott Hansen or something. Yeah, he is talking about things he doesn't get. Like the producer's going to be like, "Yo, Scott, cut. What are you doing?" Like if there's some of the things that come up in your conversation. And so when people see that in the new world where they're trying to figure out what are we doing next, right? Like who are we going to hire? Who's up and coming or whatever? They're like, oh, this kid, oh, he gets it. Oh, yeah. Fuck it. Yeah, come on.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and I've also just learned early on, it's about like put as much shit out there, as much. And one thing I do appreciate.
If it's good.
I do appreciate this from Gary Vee. And I take this a lot, honestly. Put out as much content as you want, right? As you keep going, it's going to get better, hopefully. As you get more reps in, you get better and better. But the thing he said is that don't look at the views. Do not look at the numbers, because all you need is one person to look at the talent that's there, that they can see that, hey, look, he's got, for instance, baseball perspective here. He's 18 years old, prospect in the minor leagues. He's got a couple nice tools right there. He can hit for power, but he's striking out a lot. But we see that we can improve on him. We can work with him. Get a little tee work, a couple extra shifts in the batting cage, but we'll take a chance on him.
Yep.
That's what happens a lot. But as of late, with the pandemic, you don't see it as much. People aren't really taking gambles on people. They want to see people that are ready to fucking go.
And you know what? Maybe it's exacerbated a little bit with the pandemic because people have been spread apart, right? And you're just trying to go what you know. I'll agree with that. I think it's exacerbated. But that's a pattern. Before the pandemic, that's already a pattern and we were at some point going over like the corporate mindset of these networks and what keeps them behind in it. They can't take chances because they report to a guy who reports to a guy who reports to a girl and has a fucking quarterly statement to go out for the mothership company, who's going to have one asshole executive be like, wait, why did we not hit that number on that page right there this month? Who's responsible? And someone gets fired. When you are operating like that, you cannot get to that authenticity. You cannot have a world where you can say, you know what, we're going to take a flyer on that person right there. We're going to think this one through a little bit. Whereas when you're, to use your example again, like when you're Barstool and you're like, fuck it, we'll do whatever the fuck we want. If it doesn't work, we'll get rid of it, whatever. And we'll tell our fucking fan base, like, that didn't work. That honesty, that open, just let's throw some shit against the wall if we see something there. That's why people are winning. And that's why, like, those opportunities will come up. But I understand what you're saying. In the broader industry, it's like a lot of other industries, man. They don't want to take a chance at all.
It's tough because it's, like you said, it's all about, it's like how far are you going to risk it? How far are you going to risk giving someone an opportunity that doesn't have one? So it's not like I'm fucking newbie, but it's about to the young guys, young girls and guys out there. You need to just grind. You just need to meet everybody, work everywhere if you can. And I was taught early on, just kind of bounce around.
Yeah.
My first internship, I was like 17 or 18. Whatever, how old I was, I don't know, 16, 17. I was Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, you got to bet on yourself, man. Like if
risk-taking, bet on yourself, and that's what it is.
And that's what's interesting about the pandemic. I had always said with some of my close confidants, whether it be like Mitch and Mike or Chaz, I always, like, it was almost, what's the word? It's almost like masochistic in a way, like in a weird way. I don't know if that's the word. I gotta think about that, but you'll see where I'm going with this. I always talked about when shit got bad, right? And what I meant by that was I had always studied the downturns in the economy, and the market. Like, I remember really paying attention. I was young. I was maybe like 13 or something, but really paying attention when the housing market crashed.
Yeah, no way, right?
And that was my first time in the middle of it, and I would notice things. Like, I would notice the dad who in September '08 was picking up the kid after school in, you know, $100,000 Mercedes, and then April 2009 was picking him up in a used Jeep. I saw shit like that. I remember walking into restaurants that usually had 40 tables filled and now had 12 7 months later. And I saw these effects of things. And the economy drives the vibe, drives the people's vibe, which drives the reaction, which drives people's motivations, and it drives their priorities. Right. And I would always talk about with my guys, I'm like, yo, when shit goes bad, because this was a long bull market and everything, right? When shit goes bad, I can't fucking wait. I'm going to run, and we're all going to do it. We're going to run right into the fire while everyone's running out. We're going to bet on ourselves when we do it. And to our credit, a lot of us have. But shit went bad with COVID. Now, the economy crashed, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's like kind of this fake money printing economy that has recovered the stock markets and stuff, and they're up. But people... unprecedented, right? People are home. People are depressed. There's all these lockdowns, all this shit and noise going on around them. And a lot of people just kind of were like, yeah, you know, I'll wait this thing out. They did what a lot of people do when shit goes bad. They just kind of sit there and they're like, whoa. I don't even want to say they're like, woe is me. Some people are, but they're not saying, yo, what opportunities do I have right now? And so, like, even for me specifically, I was in the middle of making an industry shift at the time, which is difficult. Doesn't matter how good your resume looks. When same example with the corporations. You go to these places, you show them a resume, it looks good, but they're like, I don't know where you fit. They don't want to think outside the box. So like, you know what? I got 12 other people that I know exactly where they fit, so fuck you. And I'm in the middle of this whole thing, and then this hits, and the whole job market goes through the floor, so that's not around. And I'm like, well, okay, what am I going to do? And I'd been building this bullshit hobby on the side with no plan, and all the equipment arrives day one of quarantine on March 13th, 2020. And I took one look at it, and my first thought, because the market's fucking tanking, I was still working at Merrill, and so my clients are freaking out. It's crazy. My first thought is, what the fuck am I going to do with this shit? And then I don't know if it was like a minute, 5 minutes. It was quick. I was like, holy shit, I forgot I had even ordered this. That's a fucking sign. If not now, when?
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, am I ready for my life to suck for a while? And I was like, yes. I'm. In fact, I invite it. Not because like, oh, I'm going to enjoy the shit out of that, but because it's like, I know that if I do it right and I'm honest about where I'm good and where I'm bad and I keep iterating and getting better, this is the time. Like if not now, when we're fucking home and God knows how long this is going to last, when the fuck am I going to do this or have this opportunity again? Now's the time, and I'm going to get it done.
I had the same thing what you did.
And you did it.
Yeah, and
you did the same thing.
Yeah, I would say it was, I remember I've talked with my friends before. It was this moment where it's like, am I going to sit on my ass for a little too long?
Yeah.
And it was about a week or two into when it first started getting serious.
And we're up in New York. It was fucking wild, you know?
Right. And I remember the first week or two, I'm sleeping in, I'm fucking watching documentaries, movies, whatever. I'm just fucking around. And then, I had the podcast at the time. I'm never really got guests. It was super hard because it would be on the phone. And, and Zoom was just kicking in. So the one thing I look from the pandemic as the only blessing in disguise personally is Zoom. Zoom for me has been a blessing in disguise. This horrible fucking year, the only good thing that's come out of it, there's been many good things come out of it, for close to home for me and how I've tried bettering myself in my career, Zoom has helped me out.
Yeah.
So I thought about it. I said, Zoom, I have a podcast. All I need is a new mic. I got the mic in one day, started fucking around with it. I tried Skype. That shit sucked.
Terrible.
Fucking awful. Hate it. Sorry. Don't like it.
Don't apologize. They suck.
Not
Make a better product.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. Seriously. And then Zoom worked, and then I just reached out to everybody. And I can tell you, I've gotten far more no's than yeses. An incredible.
What's your hit ratio? Like, what's your percentage, would you say?
Fucking garbage.
What's garbage? Roughly.
For every 10 people I ask, I'll get 1 or 2 yeses.
That's a phenomenal percentage. Because you're also asking big time people too. Your guest list is and
it's either I want you people understand. I'm sliding through the DMs. I'm finding emails from everywhere. I'm talking to agents, PR people, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And if I can get, maybe less, like 1 out of every 10. Yeah, 1 or 2.
That's a good hit ratio.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because you're dealing with, like, when I can go one-on-one with the guest and ask, like, hey, can you come on for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. And I know you're busy. Just come on, whatever. And they said, yeah, sure. Give me your email. Boom. Week later, we do it. It's great. Tough thing is going through, like, PR, going through agents. It's the worst. I had a really funny story here. So there's this female Sports Illustrated supermodel that I happened to meet on Clubhouse.
Clubhouse has been good to you, man.
Clubhouse
has been all right to you.
And it was.
You meet her off Clubhouse?
No. She's married. She's happily married.
Okay. Yeah, we won't. We won't touch that.
We just talked shortly in a room, and then I was like, you know what? She's in Sports Illustrated. She's met athletes. Her husband's an athlete. So I was like, I'm just gonna.
She's hot as shit.
She's very pretty, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it, whatever. And I slide her DMs very professionally. I say, hey, look, can you come on my podcast? I'm very interested about, and I am very interested about how the whole process of going through, the whole Sports Illustrated. It's very competitive.
Oh yeah,
it's extremely,
the swimsuit editions.
Yes. It's very, very stressful, and it's a huge pile of girls that are trying to do it. And she was, I think, a cover girl, years ago. And I asked her, so yeah, she's like, yeah, sure. So she said yes. Her people said no. And that is the most stressful shit I've had to go through. Where the person I want to interview is like, absolutely gives me an email address. Hey, email my people. We'll get it done. We'll do it next week. And this day works good for me. Is this okay for you? And I said, absolutely. I always say absolutely because I make it part of my schedule. Whenever the guest is available, I'm available. Unfortunately, that's how it works.
So whenever I'm tuning into WFAN and they're like, I think I lost the producer. That's because you're in the back fucking interviewing someone. Sorry, Mike. Shut the fuck up. I'm busy.
So I do this, and I get the email address from her, and it's her either manager or publicist or something, and I said like, oh, here's hi, my name's Taylor. Me and so have been talking back and forth the last couple hours, and we are. I'm having her come on my podcast. I will give you the information. How's that sound? And she wanted some details and questions or whatever. And I have a legit generic default email that I have for every guest, and I just plug and play questions that I do have to write some questions out to the people that are, if it's a PR
that
or whatever.
Sucks.
It's professional. It's annoying, but it's professional. I have to do it. And I created my own, and it's worked a lot. Every time I request for a guest, it does work.
And then you go, obviously, like, you don't get to some of those, or like, yes, different ones.
Right. And then I have to,
so you finesse it.
Yeah, you have to. You have to kind of work around it. And then the publicist is like, yeah, this isn't the right time for it. I was like, oh, but what she said yes. And like, well, we're not doing it. And then I said, and I legit took a screenshot of the conversation and I sent it to her publicist. I said, hey, like, there's
good
the
for
evidence.
you. Yeah, you should.
And I never do that. Like,
you have to own it, like you said.
You got if you want it, you got to go get it.
Yep.
And I did it, and she's like, still said no, and it was super frustrating. And then I was like, all right, on to the next one. And that was it. And it pissed me off for about an hour, and then I went to the next one.
Yeah, and it happens, but that's the thing. You do have to go on to the next one.
And this is all on my own.
But
that's you're doing this shit on your own. Yeah. You don't have a fucking publicist. You don't have PR people. You don't have your own manager or agent, whatever.
Imagine how easy it'll be when you get there, though.
I can't
that's
wait.
The thing.
And that's the thing. Going back to what I said before, it's all about doing all this grind for 10 years or whatever, 15 years, you fucking eat fucking dog shit. You're just getting your fucking teeth kicked in. No one appreciate the job you're doing. You're working hard. Some people, you'll get one, hey, good job every fucking year, once a year, sometimes. And there's been times where I've gotten a lot of praise and no praise, even if I did a good job or good work. And you got to keep fucking biting the bullet and doing it, because when you do hit it, you're going to look back when you're 25, 26, 27, and you're going to be like, I'm so happy that I did all this hard work and I'm fucking post up. I have my own show, or I work for a network and I'm a host.
Yeah.
for a show, whatever it is. And I'm looking, and that's a problem I have. People think it's like, people say like I shouldn't do it. I look way too far into the future.
Yeah, you got look
because people think it's unhealthy.
I think it's like anything else. There's a nuance to it. You need to be present. You need to be very present.
I agree. And I wasn't for a long time.
Okay, so that's where I would agree with some said people and say that part's a mistake. But it's okay to be like, if you're doing it every day, I think that's problematic, but it's okay to once in a while, again, like kind of as a check to progress, be like, yo, what's my ultimate kind of dream scenario? Okay, how am I doing anything that puts me, am I doing some of the things that are going to be needed to put me in that position?
Right.
That's okay. It's a balance, but it's also personal in my opinion. Like I know some people who do not set goals, period. They live, and they're machines. They live today. Completely.
Yeah,
because
crazy
that's what works for them.
Right.
And
right.
and I'm not talking about people who are failures. I'm talking about people who are doing some really cool shit, right? And then I know other people who all they do is set goals, right? And it works for them. Mm-hmm. There is a balance to it. I do think that when you're just completely like, oh yeah, I can't wait till I do that. Oh my God. Oh yeah, what was I doing? Like when you start to get distracted like that all the time, it's a problem. But look, this is an important conversation in the sense that it's everything. It is not just going into media or doing something like that. And media is difficult because you have to put yourself out there and you have to be open to a lot of criticism, including from people you don't know. But I think I got to tell you, I think it's a huge, huge blessing because if you are in something like this, you need to be interested in people. You need to be interested in all types of people, not just fucking famous people and shit. And the things you learn about what people are thinking or what's going through their mind when you have some sort of platform you're building and you're talking with people and you're reading comments on stuff to see where it's at. I love it, man. Like even on TikTok, there's a lot of incognito accounts there. So people will say whatever the fuck they want. And they may be like, from behind a keyboard, way too harsh on shit. I actually really enjoy it because I am learning a lot. No, like seriously, I don't get nasty at all in the comments. Like some of the videos I've done that have 5,000 comments on them where 2,000 people are like, that's fucking amazing, man. And 2,000 people are like, yo, you're a fucking asshole. I like it all. Like I actually, the positive ones, I'm like, it's more or less like, all right, let me respond and thank you for doing that, whatever. But I'm not. That reinforcement's like great, but it's not, you're not learning from that, right? I'm learning a lot from combining who I see positive responses from and kind of, sometimes looking at the account, cleaning what I can, and then who I'm seeing the negative responses to and what they're saying. Because then the way I'll go back at them, and this is where I learn so much, is I'm like, especially when I'm putting opinions out that are on tough issues, I'm like, yo, I totally get it. This is a really tough issue. You have a different opinion. No problem. Can you state your case? Like, I'll listen. Sure. 90% of the people never come back because either they're nasty or more likely they did a quick sideswipe comment and didn't think anything of it, and then they're like, "Oh shit, he responded," and then they're just like,
"Well, that's how a lot of things. That's how it is all the time.
That's how a lot of things are on the internet." But 10% of the people come back, and we have nice conversations because they're so shocked that someone's not like, "Fuck you," you know what I mean?
Right.
And the things I learn about why people arrive at the things they do is amazing. And I find myself like, I have to think in this job. I have to be very focused on the person across from me and seeing what their vibe is today and what they want to talk about. And then, you start thinking about, well, what's the motivation behind some of this stuff if the context is there, right?
Right.
And then I can relate some of those things and be like, oh, the person I'm talking to really feels X way on this thing, right? And then I'm like, oh, I know like 3,000 people that are thinking the same way. This must be like a thing, right? And there's a gleaning process there that I think it can be used in anything, but in media, you have to be willing to, and this is why I'm tying it back, in order to get that type of attention and that type of material that you can learn from, you got to put yourself out there. And you got to be willing to be like, yo, yeah, the criticism's going to come. Let's take it. The only thing, as like a side note, that I will be aggressive on in the comments, very aggressive, like scorched earth, and I'm not killing people, but I'm like, I will come back at them publicly, is when people will try to say, yo, this is a scripted podcast or something. I defend my brand very heavily, but then I send them, I'm like, go look at the video here. Please tell me where there's a script. There's 3 cameras, right? And what's funny is, a lot of those guys end up subscribing, and they're like, you know what? Actually, I'm surprised. I'm used to podcasts being shitty. Like this is cool. You know,
Right.
That's the only thing I get nasty on. But people that like are closed-minded, that are in this type of business, whether it be sports, news, current events, just fucking talking like this, whatever it is, they're not going to get anywhere because A, they're going to be afraid to put themselves out there because they don't want people to disagree with their opinions, and B, when they actually go to do that, and you know, then they're trying to start conversations with people, they're not going to be able to because they're fucking hacks. They're like, nope, this is what I think. That's it. Can't be like
people
that.
Thrive off of negativity.
Yes. Yep.
People thrive from saying this video sucks. Send.
Yep.
People love because it's easy. It's easy. It's hard to be nice. It's easy to be a fucking prick.
Yep.
And it's so funny to me when I see if it's on something like yours or anybody it's in this space. And when I read comments, and it's like, I don't understand how you can watch a video probably more than once and then write that. My brain does not calibrate that way, and it never will. I'm never a guy to talk shit on a social media platform.
You're not. I'm not.
Have I talked shit about something that maybe deserves it? Like the other day, Angel Hernandez was just a umpire.
Terrible umpire.
Fucking the worst.
The worst umpire ever.
And but you'll understand that everybody is on the same side. It's Angel Hernandez over here, and everybody else is over here. Yeah. It's equal. It makes sense for me to say something. I'm not going to comment if it's a fucking heartwarming video and I say, "Oh, this shit fucking blows."
But that's the thing. You and me, we don't do that. We don't think like that, right?
No.
A lot of people out there do.
It's
believe it or not.
Fucking scary.
And what's scarier is you know some of them, and you don't realize it.
Right. I do at the same time. Mm. But what's scary is that there's this whole pandemic. People have been home.
Yeah.
And they're look. We've all had moments during the pandemic where we've been stressed, anxiety, we've been upset, we've been fucking angry. And a lot of those all combined together are not a good cocktail. And then people go to the internet to voice which is kind of circling back on one of the conversations we had about everyone has an opinion. And then if some people don't realize how much work you put into putting a video out. They don't get that we do an interview for 3 hours, and then you have to go rewatch it for another 3 hours, time code it, figure out what you want to put on social, and then when you put it on social, before that, you're fucking editing it, putting other clips in, you're changing directions on the camera.
Why do people buy into it though?
Because I don't know, because they're. I wouldn't say because they're interested, because it's just there on social media, I guess, right?
You're 100% right, but the second reason is, and that's why it's not a guarantee with stuff. Is it good, right? And that ties back to another thing we said. You put in all that effort, and like I'm sitting across from you. I know you know about this because this is what you do. Like, when I'm sitting across from other people, sometimes I gotta be like, I wonder if they know, and I don't want to sit here and be like, this is all the shit I do or whatever. But you do put in all that time, but the market is the arbiter of truth in the long run, not in the short term. Things take time. People don't buy into things early. You can even see it on like posts. People are less likely to like a post on a social platform if it just got put up. Maybe not on Instagram, on other platforms, right? When it's got a low amount of likes.
Yeah.
When it starts to get a higher amount of likes, the like ratio goes up because now people, they can fade into the crowd. Same thing when you're building anything. Like, people are less likely to subscribe to something, where it's like, oh, this has fucking 10 subscribers. It's got 10,000, they're more likely hit the button.
Right.
So there's the arbiter of truth is the quality. But your point is well taken in the sense that a lot of the people who put out this criticism and stuff, where it doesn't even have to do with the video itself and like whether or not it was quality or not. They just like saying something negative because they're like, fuck this person for even trying. They're just reflecting their own insecurities, in my opinion, because some of those people, not all of them, but some of them, they've wanted to do something like this. And they've thought of every reason why they can't, and they don't fucking do it. And then they say, you know what, fuck this guy for doing what I wanted to do. And you know what? I feel bad for them for that. I don't
Julian,
get mad at them.
Spot on, man. And that's a lot of people seen a lot of that, where it's I'll go on someone's video, someone posts a cool video, whatever it is, and someone says something fucking nasty. And then you look at that person's profile, and then you see, like, Yankee Ranger Met, Giant fan, die hard, and it's like, okay, so they're a giant sports fan. They're a huge sports fan. Maybe they wanted some sort of career to get into it, and there's a lot of, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of people that just talk about what they want to do, but they're just not doing it, and then they get jealous of other people that are succeeding, that it's at their...
Or trying.
Yeah. And I can say this, I've had friends who I'm not friends with anymore say to me, why don't you just, like, quit? Like, you're working too hard. Why? And I'm like, oh, you don't get it. You do regular sales, whatever.
Yeah. Ashton Larrell was just in here last month talking about the same exact thing, and I love this point.
You just don't get it, No, I don't want to offend anybody, but, like, anybody can do sales, but not everybody can do what I'm doing, and I'm doing it at this level, low level. I'm saying right now, I'm not super low, but I'm saying I'm working my way up in an industry that's super competitive, that a lot of people like to watch and a lot of people want to do.
Yeah, I'd be careful too. I'm always careful with generalizations I say, because I say them some episodes, and
I might have just offended somebody.
No. When guests do, I'll hedge on some of it, because I agree with your point. It's not like anyone can do something like sales, but the barrier to entry to doing it is much lower, because you can hide behind other people when you are creating media. To your point, and especially when it's like, yo, I'm gonna create my show. You have to put your face out there, and you have to have the social tension of, like, being okay with that.
There's a lot of risk involved, and you can fall flat on your face day after day after day after day, and people can say, you fucking suck, you're not good at this, you'll never be good at this, quit now while you're ahead, and just don't do it. And I luckily, I haven't seen a lot of that. I've had people tell me in person, they're like, hey, I think you're not great at this. And I said, well, okay, you're wrong. I appreciate your opinion. Thank you. But I'm going to stick to working hard and doing it.
Well, there's a question for you, actually, because there's that fine line where you're not taking criticism, where some of it's, like, pretty legit. Now, let me back up for a second. When I edit this thing, I'm used to it now because I do it 24/7. I'm used to editing myself and whatever. But even to this day, all the littlest things I do wrong, and I know you can relate to this. You're like, oh, fuck, why did I say that word? Or why did I have that filler? Like, there's always shit you can improve on, right? And so even when people are looking out for you, and it doesn't seem that way, they may notice that you say a certain filler word too much, and they may be getting on you about it. And it's helpful, and it might not come across that way. That said, there are also people who just make the assumption that you can't be, one of the people who makes it, because that doesn't happen to normal people like us. That's not going to happen, right? And so then they put that criticism out, and it manifests the other way, and they're like, no, you're not good at this. Fuck you, get out. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, you have to know where there is legitimate, oh, no, they're right about that thing.
Yeah.
And I can improve on that, versus, no, who the fuck are you? Fuck off. Like, that's not... you're not attracting to my vibe here, and that has nothing to do with what's actually needing to improve here. And, like, yeah, I am pretty good at this, and I'm going to make it.
See, the thing is, I take constructive criticism because I like it. I like when people tell me this is not great, but I like it only from people that know what they're talking about. I'm talking about people that are in the business, that have either been in a long time, or they've been in longer than me, right? Now, look, if someone's new in the business and they give me an opinion on what they think of what I'm doing, if you're just in the business altogether, I want to hear from you. Because you know something of what I'm trying to put out. You know how to do maybe this much of what I'm doing, and you have an idea. It's like, hey, maybe you can put this segment here instead of here.
Yes.
Make more sense.
Yes.
And guess what? I'm going to listen to it, think about it, and if I agree to it, I'm going to change it. And if I don't, I'm not going to. But I'm going to listen because you're in the same realm. If Joe Schmo from the comment section doesn't like what I'm talking about and thinks it's shit,
yep,
whatever. I'm just see ya.
Agreed.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You don't know how things you don't know how it goes. You don't know how you put a show together. You don't know how to structure a podcast. You don't know how the editing goes. You don't know shit.
They'll also just be shutting down an opinion they didn't like, though, and then broad brushing the whole product. But also the comments, like, oh, you must suck, you know.
And the comment section is it's also there's negative things and positive things with the comment section. It's a beautiful place to see a fan base generate.
Yes, agreed.
Slowly, in the comment section. Companies have gotten big because of the comment section.
Yes.
You know, and it is a beautiful thing watching some small podcast become a giant overnight. You know,
but that's the thing though too. Generally, like, this isn't a podcast, but like, can a Dogface 208 happen? Yeah, you know, the guy rides a skateboard, drinks the juice, plays a song in the background. People are like, "Fuck it," and he's huge. It can happen. Very rare, right? Extremely. And so when we see things happen overnight, where suddenly something has a following, chances are there were a lot of lean times leading up to that. Like, they didn't have a following for a long time, and then people come across it. They're like, holy shit, this is a gold mine or whatever, and then they're big.
That's what I'm saying. All it takes is one yes or one video or one photo or something. It just takes one. I forgot who it was, but he would post fucking videos all the time, and nobody's watching. Nobody gives a shit. And then one of them clicked.
Well, you were somewhere in here a few minutes ago, I think. You had mentioned like the Gary Vee point on just making a whole bunch of shit and keeping on putting it out there. The one thing I got to check on that I disagree with him on is that kudos to him when he was coming up in the early days of social media and fucking turning the camera around and trying wines out. Like, that worked because there was a low supply. The thing about today's environment is that people are very quick to judge. And if you you can't just put out content to put out content. If you put out content that sucks, which at some point you are going to do something wrong, right? But if you put out 10 in a row because it's like, oh, I just got to post, I need more, you're going to get fucked, especially on like the discoverable platforms like TikTok. If you put out 10 bad videos in a row that your audience doesn't like, you're done. Good luck. They will send they will send your future great videos, if you actually come up with them, to the minimal number of people to press them forward. So it better be perfect, and it better hit those people at the best possible time of their day where they happen to take an action of the engagement, and now it has a shot. You can't put out bad shit consistently. You have to put out things that actually have a level of quality to them, and you have to iterate to get to that quality.
What happens if you're like an 18-year-old kid in your first internship and you're getting some airtime on radio or whatever, and it's going to be garbage, but you need to put it out there? Like, I have the feeling where it's like, I think to motivate yourself and you're gaining.
I know what you're saying now. Yeah, go ahead.
You're gaining. I can't think of the word. Hold on. You're gaining. You're encouraging yourself. Like, hey, look. Yes. I got to get some sort of attitude. I got to be okay with putting shit out there. And a lot of kids are just scared to put shit out there because they think it's going to be, they're going to be destroyed because there's not 500 likes, or there's not 1,000 likes on there. There's only 20, or there's only 20 views instead of 200, and they're freaking out. What, I'm never going to post again.
Right. So my advice there, advice, very big air quotes there, is that for that example, let's say someone gets 30 minutes of airtime. If it's not great, but you need to get yourself comfortable with, this is the first step, and I agree with that. Don't cut it up into 60, 30-second clips and release 60, 30-second clips over the next 60 days.
Yeah.
Cut it up into 3 and release them over the next 3 months, and then let people track it slowly over time.
And then you dissect that 30 minutes, and you listen to it over and over and over again. And you figure out what you need to fix, and then you do it again and again and again.
I agree with you. I think the way you're looking at this is correct.
Yeah, and that's how I was raised. I was like, and not raised, but how I was brought up in the industry. It's like, and I was so afraid to do to put stuff out when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because one, I didn't know how to edit that great. I started editing when I was in high school, but as you do more of it, like in anything, you do more of it, you get better at it. But I was extremely nervous putting out stuff. The very first time I did radio was in college, and it was so funny, dude. Like, this is what I was talking about way before I was going to mention, because Frances is a goat, and he just, we just talk.
Tell her. I'm not a goat. I'm a guy.
The 5 hours to the Pope, whatever you want to fucking call him. The guy talks 5 hours straight.
Yeah.
by himself. And I remember this radio station to my college. It was shit. It was garbage. And I remember it was my sophomore year. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go like look, see what this is about. And then there was like a block of time on the list that was available. I was like, all right, Wednesday is 9 o'clock. I'll do it for a semester, see how it goes. Man, dude, first of all, you listen to the radio your whole life, but when you get in it and you're sitting in it, you fucking go blank.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like the plexiglass, right? And the other side was the producer. And I stared into the plexiglass for an hour straight. And I didn't know how they structured the radio show. I didn't know I could like play music as a commercial break. I went 1 hour straight without commercial breaks.
That was the best practice ever.
Dude, I was stressing out. And guess how many people listened? 6 people.
Yeah.
My 5 roommates and my dad. And then maybe a couple of his buddies. And like they would call in different names and it was great. But it was like the call-in feature was so stupid. The phone was sitting right here, so you'd be listening to the show and you would hear the phone ring. I go like this while I'm taking one of my headphones off.
This is some old school shit.
Take that phone, put it here, so it's close to the microphone. The phone is close to the microphone. I'm talking. It was so ass backwards, and there were so many times the producer was sleeping. Producer said
it was just high.
Definitely,
yeah.
And the producer would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get some dinner."
Go get another edible.
There was one. It was the last show I did because I was furious at how they ran it. I didn't know at the time I was in the studio. There was a like network shutdown in our college. The network server went out for like 2 hours, right when I started my show.
I was gonna say while you're on there,
okay. From 8 to 9 or 9 to 10, whatever it was, and there was no producer. The producer's like, "Hey, all you have to do is press play, whatever." So there wasn't anybody to tell me that the server went out. The network server went out. So I recorded a radio show that nobody listened to. So I was talking to myself for an hour. No idea. And I have my phone on airplane mode. Turn it back on. I'm getting a bunch of messages like, "Yo, we can't hear anything." And I'm freaking out. I'm like, I just wasted an hour of my life doing this.
No, you didn't, because you thought whole thought was you thought you were on there and you were getting reps.
And then I find out as soon as I get back to my apartment, I was like, yeah, there was no internet. There was servers are done, and I was so angry. But it's those learning experiences that you have to have, like the one I said before. I was with the Minnesota Twins, and I got thrown into it, and I got yelled at by a player. But you have to learn those early on because you don't want to learn those that kind of stuff, those experiences later on in life. You want to learn the tough shit where the servers go out, and it's all it's funny talking about it now, but at the moment it was fucking irritating. Well,
we're still in the middle. I mean, knock on wood here now, the vaccine's spreading far and wide and everything, so it appears like we're coming out on the other side of this thing finally. But we've been in this for 15 months or 16 months, whatever it is. And you were talking about something a little bit ago where everything was exacerbated with emotion during this time because people are home, they got nothing to do. 100% right.
Right.
But looking back on it's just reminding me of this. Like, you're looking back on some of these experiences where you got to learn some stuff. Do you find that, like, during this whole time where you're on an island, pretty much, it's like it's harder to put yourself in some situations because it's not even real, and you're like, we're all separated anyway, and everyone's just fucking miserable. So, like, is this even, like, is there more doubt that you have or have had because, like, the world is just in a fucking miserable place?
You're saying doubt of just how my career's going, kind of way, or like
not even that broadly. I'm saying, like, in creating content and doing what you're doing. Is there, like, I'm probably not asking this right. This is one of those things where I know what I want to ask, but it's very hard to put in words. Yeah. Is there, like, a part of you that's thinking everything is so negative right now that even when I put myself out there, quote unquote, and I'm putting out content, and maybe on some things I'm not seeing the results I want to get or whatever, it's exacerbated you feeling down on yourself about it, or like, oh, this isn't going right, or whatever. It's harder to put yourself in those situations where it's like, yo, no, this was a really good learning experience because I'm not going to fuck that up again. You know?
It's definitely the time, because I think during the last 15 months or so, it seemed like everybody in anything you would do, it has to be perfect and has to be right.
Yeah.
And putting out video content or audio content, it's not possible to put out perfect stuff. No. It's just not. And personally for me, I've had points where I don't want to do it. Like there was a couple of weeks I didn't do a podcast because I was so stressed out about like, I don't have a guest this week. Fuck. I don't know. The sports there's nothing really going on in sports. Fuck. And,
it was stopped.
And then, but there was even times of like, fucking a couple of weeks ago, I'm just struggling. You have to, it's a never ending race to compete with everybody.
Yes.
It's exhausting. I want to hit a point in my career where I know I did my all. I worked my ass off, and I made the money I want to make. I have a name, and under that name, I have a bunch of shit that I've done. And look, do I want to be the best to ever do it? Yes. But the last year or so, it's like I don't want to stress myself out to the point of exhaustion and just like I'm like depressed to do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
To be number one.
Yeah.
I want to be the best to ever do it. I think I can, but it's all about timing and working hard, and everything in the universe needs to hit at the same time to start it. And once you start the goal you want to hit in your career, then you need to look at what you got and what you're in the moment right now, and you then you have to kind of progress and keep that train going. It's just the whole thing is stressful, and this whole year has been stressful with everything.
Yeah, because you live up in New York. You've been there the entire time, and we all know because I was still living up there in North Jersey when this thing hit, and I was up there for a couple months at the beginning, and we all know it was a cyclone. And the people in states that were less affected by COVID may not be able to understand that, and that's why some of them don't get everything that happened. And to some extent, I agree with the lengths we ended up going to for a long time. But if you were around there, if you were around New York, this thing was a fucking mess at the beginning.
I remember when the city first shut down.
Yeah.
I had to go into the office right when it shut down.
What date?
I don't remember. It was the second week in March, maybe third week in March.
Was it that Friday?
It was. Yeah, I worked Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I started.
I remember this. So the rumor was going around that the city was going to shut down, and then it started getting serious. And I remember it must have been the second week of the shutdown, not the first one, because I said to my boss, like, I'm not comfortable. Like, I'm super scared. I'm nervous. I don't know. Like, I don't want to go into the office.
Bro, we thought it was killing like 20% of the population. Like at the beginning, we forget that, but like
quick,
we did.
Right, and I, just like you, me, and everybody else, had no idea what was going on. And I said, like, hey, I want to work. I'm scared.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go. And he said, all right, fine. And the next week I mustered up the confidence to go, and I drove in. And it took me 45 minutes from Suffolk County to Manhattan, downtown Manhattan, in 45 minutes, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
No traffic, nothing. And I remember when I parked my car, it was police officers, homeless people, and a couple people walking their dog near the West Village on a Saturday evening, 6 o'clock. You know how it is. It is jam-packed on a Saturday.
Could you hear a thing?
It was pin drop, dude. It was so eerie. And I remember I walked in and I was given a second ID, and it was a what's it called? A essential workers card.
Oh yeah.
Because if a cop pulled me over and it's like, "What are you doing out right now?"
I'm essential.
Media. If you looked at the essential workers list, it was like all health personnel, and then media was there.
Yeah,
because
it was.
If you're not, sports is a little different. But if like people on like CNN or Fox or
NBC, they rolled everyone into it.
They rolled all those people into it. And I remember I walked in, and our studio, our floor where all the studios are, and the bullpens where all of us worked in there, it was always packed. And I remember there was, I think, 2 or 3. And I just sat there for 6 hours because there's no sports. I just sat there, didn't do anything. And I was just like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever done. And I go back out, my shift's over at midnight, and it's usually popping, and it's just this dark, eerie, lonely, just empty place. And I said, like, is the world gonna fucking end?
Yeah, dude, and some people again might not get it based on where they live, and everyone gets it to an extent because like we've seen what happens.
Yeah.
But it was a different level,
dude. It was fucking. It was so. It's something I'll never forget. It was so weird.
I went up there. I'm headed, and now it's starting to loosen up. I'm hearing like it, you know, because people are getting vaccinated and everything. I still have one round left to go, but a lot of people are fully vaccinated at this point, and especially, you're done now, and especially up in New York, because people are just like, we're done. Let's fucking get this thing. Let's get on with life. And I'm seeing from the outside that like a lot of restaurants are popping. They're supposedly like full, all go open in a couple weeks, which knock on wood, let's hope that continues and it's great. But like, there was a time there. My first time I went back was end of January. I had probably half my guests have been from New York. The other half have been from Philly. Probably 45 and 45, and then 10% have been from Miami. Interesting little diaspora there.
That's cool.
But I went back up with one of my guys from New York when I had him in at the end of January. And I was so mentally prepared for what I was going to see. Because I keep this right here on the goddamn headphone amplifier. I love New York. New York is the center of the world. It's my favorite place, right? And from afar, you see this happening. Because eventually, I was from afar. I was back down here in South Jersey, and you just see it keep on dipping lower and lower and lower. And like they're getting crushed and all this shit. And it's like, oh my God, like the center of the world's just stopping. And I was like, okay, it's going to be really bad. Just, don't have expectations. And I got to tell you, man, I got there and it was worse. And it wasn't worse because of what I saw of the city. I will actually say that physically, the city looked better than I thought. There were some boards, there were some rats in places where there usually aren't actually rats. There was some graffiti and stuff like that, but buildings seemed pretty good. It was the people that scared the shit out of me because everyone was terrified. And, this is 8-9 months in, and they're dead. They're wearing fucking 3 masks and a face shield. They're looking down. They won't look at you. It's like a nice day outside, and people are terrified. And I'm like, yo, I don't know when that bell is going to unring. And so what it feels like to me now, and this is where I have more hope, is that from everything I've been seeing and all my guys who are up there, it's like people are actually, I guess maybe the confidence comes after you get vaccinated and stuff. People are actually like, oh no, we're okay. Like, and they're actually behaviorally returning to more like eye contact and being in bigger groups of people and like being okay. And is that, part of this might be wishful thinking on my end because that's what I want to see. But is that what you're experiencing? Because you're in there all the time now with WFAN.
Yeah, it's so nice to see the city just packed. Yeah, it's not fairly. It feels nice to see people walking around. Yeah, they're masked up. Everyone feels comfortable-ish. And the vaccine is definitely a like calming effect on some people, including myself. It's a safety guard. Yeah. Now, we don't know if it's going to be 100% working all day every day.
There is no such thing as a 100% vaccine. This is the most impressive vaccine that was ever made, though. It's going to have to be good enough, man.
Hey, look, I've said it I've been very good since the beginning of this. I've done the right thing. Mm-hmm. It's like how much I can't do it much longer.
You can't do anymore. You've done everything you're supposed to do.
I've done it. I've worn the mask. Yep. I've not gone out. I've gone out. Yep. I've done takeout. I've helped small businesses. I've done the right thing. Yep. And now I got the vaccine. The thing is, I think people still, and I have a hard time. I still do it. Not still do it. I've done it where I was like, I had the vaccine. It's like, oh, I can just relax now. Well, you can't you have to be still smart. But with me, the vaccine, I feel so much better because I'm like, all right, so now I can kind of go back to normal-ish.
Yeah. So, and you got it like at you were done, what, the end of April? Mm-hmm. So you weren't like really early. But if you got it at the very beginning, like December, January, maybe even February, I would agree with you on that. Now, we are at a point where, because my whole thing was like, first of all, I'm in here all the time. Like, my guests decide to come or they don't, right? And I want all the old people to get it first and the people who really fucking are in danger. So I waited, and now I'm halfway through or whatever. But part of the thing that I was like, okay, we're ready to roll, is like, you can get it everywhere. It is available.
At like CVS.
Dude.
Walgreens.
Everywhere.
That kind of freaks me out. I feel like it needs to be at like a...
Maybe. And that's a separate... Maybe we'll get to that too. But I'm saying, like, my point is, if you don't want to get it, because, like, you know, whatever your personal reasons are, okay, no problem. Like, that's your choice. Like, that's not what I'm going to do. Sure. Fine. I'm not going to sit here and get in a fucking dick measuring contest with you over a vaccine. But the point is, there comes a point where it's like, there's been enough time. If you didn't get it, no problem. Like, that's the risk. I'm not fucking changing my life for you. I'm going out there, like, we're chilling. I'm vaccinated. You're vaccinated. Let's fucking go. And that Band-Aid has to rip off. And people have to be comfortable with that. And you know what? Like, because that's the other thing. The people who don't want to get vaccinated, chances are 99% of them don't think it's a big deal anyway. So why fucking cave to that? And again, respect. And I want to say that. And I know some people will be like, yo, fuck you for saying that. It's everyone's choice what you put in your body. Fine. And I'm cool with that. And I don't think the government should be fucking telling everyone exactly what they have to do. That's bullshit. But because this one's also different. It's not like tetanus and all those that have been tested for years. I understand that, like, some people are a little nervous about that, even though that's not really how the science works. Separate point. I get it. But the rest of us are not going to keep changing our lives to be like, yo, we're just going to let this pandemic last another 3 years because you don't want to fucking do it. I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, there has to be. I think there has to be a point in time where, right? What do you need? Like 60, 70% of the population to get.
We're not that far off.
So
I got to check the numbers, but we're not like that far off.
I don't know the numbers. I'll state that for a fact.
Yeah,
no idea.
Don't take our numbers because like we don't know.
I don't know. I'm just saying it's when the government gives you an option to do something, you have the opportunity to either do it or don't. I would say it's majority of the time the government is doing in their best interest for the people, right? For most of the time, I wouldn't say all the time. For most of the time, so
I'm not going to touch that.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, personally, for me, the vaccine's there. Give it to me. I want to try to go back to normal as much as I can, slowly. Mm-hmm. From whatever the guidelines suggest. CDC yesterday just announced that you don't have to wear, you don't have to wear a mask if you're fully vaccinated. Oh,
the press conference he did like a week ago or whatever?
The CDC put out something yesterday.
I remember it. Yeah, they did say that.
So
whenever it was.
So there's a progression coming, and it's lovely to see that things are moving up and up. And look, it's going to help everything. It's going to help restaurants. It's going to help small businesses. It's going to help our brains. We're going to try. And look, we can go back to sporting events.
Yeah, which is time to go, baby.
Which is a part. But it's. I hate when people say like, why are you so focused on sports? Sports is not it's politics.
It's critical.
Sports is an outlet for millions of people around the world to escape from what their reality is.
Yep. So
some people have 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and they fucking hate their job. But they know on Sundays they can go watch the Giants with their boys and just kind of sink into the couch and have a beer, a couple wings, and forget everything. And then they know after the game's over, reality starts back up. But they know 17 times in the football season.
That's another conversation.
They're going to have something to look forward to. Yeah. And I think with how the people are getting vaccinated, and you have big celebrities and athletes promoting to get vaccinated, and things are coming, and things are getting better. And I'm so happy to see it because last year was tough. Last year was tough, and I think people need to be positive enough to see that things are in the right direction.
First of all, your point about sports is so spot on because that vibe, tailgates, having fun, not worrying about shit, just letting life happen.
Yeah.
Sports is like at the top of the list, man. It's so important.
People have traditions.
Yes.
They have. I've season tickets for 35 years, and every Sunday I go with my family and neighbors, and we all get our RVs together, and we start grilling at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's what people look forward to.
100%. The other point you're raising, though, a piece of a bigger point, and this is where I just think it's like, there's some just weird shit going on, and I fuck if I know what it is, so I'm not going to say because I don't. But I mentioned a few seconds ago where I made an aside about how people don't understand the science behind vaccines. But I also get why they don't and why they're so skeptical about shit. And it does go in a little bit to your point about if the government's offering something, because governments generally are power hungry, regardless of the fact that we tend to historically, even if you want to call it all pieces of shit, we have had the best piece of shit relative to the rest of the world on top of the pile for a long time. And I will fight that point because it is true. Like, go to China, people. See how you like that fucking government. Anyway, that aside. The psychology of compelling or encouraging people to do something. What, as kids, if your dad said to you, like every dad did, when you're 15 or your mom, whatever, hey, don't drink. You want to go fucking drink. Because you say, why? Because I fucking told you and you're going to get in trouble. You want to do the opposite. And the thing about the vaccine that has pissed me off so much is the marketing around it. Because the marketing is fucking the most patronizing. Like, even I understand when people are like, it's authoritarian and that. And like, there's an element of that, but the thing is, it has distracted from what the vaccine is and what the fucking point is, and the fact that we're not talking about a drug. Like, here's the other thing, and I'm not going to go too deep because I'm not a medical expert. I'm going off of some things that, like, John Schneider was in here, who, you know, works in the industry and knows a lot back in January. I'm going off things that smarter people than me have said. But the science between, like, a vaccine and a drug, very different. Very different. A vaccine takes elements of an actual disease that it's supposed to fight and injects it in a controlled manner into your body so that your body does the fucking work and teaches itself how to build antibodies. That is an overgeneralization, but that's how it works. Sure. And we've gotten to the point where, because people are seeing marketing that is, you know, they get the fucking push button notifications from Instagram, check out where you can get the vaccine, everyone dancing in masks and shit. They see, you know, by the way, there's like, I have some friends in the black community who are not doing it, and I don't argue with them because they feel like the marketing of the vaccine is fucked, and they're like, this is racist as shit. They got people doing TikTok dances to like rap songs outside of hospitals and stuff, and I'm like, if you wanted people to not take a vaccine or question a vaccine, do everything you're fucking doing right now. They've done it totally wrong, and I think there's an outlier in New York or in like North Jersey in hot spots because we remember. We saw what it did. We saw how bad it can get. So we're kind of like, I'm pretty good at ignoring it. I notice it and I'm like, wow, that's really stupid. But like, I know what I'm getting here and I'm going to go get the fucking vaccine, right? You know, like, all right, let's get this over with. Like, oh, this is great. We got it. Let's go. But there are people around this country who weren't in hotbeds, right? Who don't have that experience, who are like, yo, this is fucking sketchy as hell. And it stresses me out to think about it because I see us now, it's not even political at this point. It's like weird. It's a diaspora. I see us now stretching on this fucking line of vaccines. We already have this stretch of like Democrats and Republicans fucking killing each other. And now we're just, and all the racial issues, everything. Now we're just creating another divide around something, and it's not going to go away because there's going to be people who don't fucking take this. And then what the fuck happens then?
Well, I think that was a given, though. I think that was an absolute
Yeah, but
given.
how many? How many?
Yeah.
How many aren't going to take this? I don't have a percentage for you, but it's not 5. It's higher.
Yeah, I mean, but that's something the government knew coming in, though, is that people, you know, they don't agree on everything. So let me know when our entire population agrees on one thing.
They won't. Yeah,
it'll never happen.
You're right. Right about that.
So there's that.
Yeah, it's just like I'm exasperated with it. As you can tell, I'm ready for this to be over. So, you know, it is promising to hear that New York of all places is starting to starting to feel a little better.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's awesome to see.
I know I'm going up there in a couple weeks too, so we got a link when you're up there.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to be in the city on Sunday going to some outdoor brunch. I can't wait. It's just nice to kind of do the normal things you're supposed to do in your 20s.
Yes. And you know what? I'm never taking it for granted again.
All the times where I canceled on, we're staying. Fuck that. I'm going out.
And there's some times where you and me got to work. There is. But still, like, 1 out of 3 times where we would have, we're gonna go. We're gonna go make sure we see people,
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice excuse for a good balance. You're still responsible for yourself and your work and getting it done.
And I think this pandemic has, like, taught all of us, like, who we really are, I think.
Yes.
I think you really reckon, I mean, some people took advantage of a horrible opportunity. They took advantage on it where they put a podcast together, or they did something, a hobby that they had, and now they turn into a career or something. You know what I'm trying to say. But what I learned from the pandemic is that I thought I was a hard worker before, and I've turned into a fucking madman of a hard worker. If it's putting on content, if it's applying for jobs 5-6 days a week, working my ass off, just talking to people, being on Clubhouse or whatever it is, I've learned that I am an extremely hard worker, and I'm proud of that, because it's all about when your cards are down, how hard are you going to, fix it? How hard are you going to fix the problem? What lengths are you going to go to fix a situation that you're in? There's millions of Americans out there that have had an issue this year, and they learned that, like, if I can't fix it, like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Am I gonna just sit where I am and just sulk? No, you can sulk while you're fucking trying to fix it and be upset. But that's the one thing I learned, is that you need to, if you want to fix a situation, fucking go and do it.
Pull yourself up with it.
Pull yourself up and just do it.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a little while, but if you can get a nice head start on it, then you're in the right direction.
Dude, I think that's a perfect place to leave off. I think you said that beautifully. I have nothing to add to that.
Thanks, man.
Listen, man, it's great to see you in person. No, we've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm glad you came down. Taylor also, like, on a Friday drove like 3.5 hours down here, so I really, really appreciate that. I'm proud of all the work you're doing.
Thank you, man.
And
likewise.
Thank you. And it's really cool when you meet someone at, like, a random event and you end up being tight with them and then keeping in touch and everything. And that was a fun weekend. We had interesting diverging paths of that weekend after the different shit that happened. But
yes, we did.
That was damn, dude. Like, that was a couple years ago. And look at where we are now. It is obviously it's a brave new world with all the shit that happened. But, like, the progression of where things are for you and for me, just two different worlds.
Isn't that crazy how just things just change in an instant like that?
But that's why your point's great. You got to just adjust and fucking, if you have a problem, fix it. And there has to be a level to which you have that self-motivation to do it. I love how you put that whole thing.
Thanks, man.
So,
appreciate that.
Thank you for doing it.
Of course, man.
We'll do it again down the line.
Can't wait.
Keep building. You're doing your thing, and we'll see you soon.
Let's go. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Everybody else, give it a thought. Get back.